Anyway, we can look at what has happened here. Of course, as alluded to, the Bolts knocked out on Friday. The Titans and the Kings, the last two teams standing here on the championship Sunday. And a lot that is riding on this. Now, if you were watching, you know both of these teams have officially qualified for Worlds. And you're probably wondering, what could they possibly be playing for? There is a $24,000, almost $25,000 difference between first and second place here. So prize pool is a huge deal. But not only that, whoever wins this set gets to choose their quarterfinal opponent in, well, I guess the quarterfinal on the side of their bracket at Worlds. So when we do the placement round, we find out all the teams that are coming in December. Whoever wins here gets to choose who they might potentially face. And that is a huge deal for them. We're going to talk about, especially thinking, with the way the group stage shook out, these two teams were separated for a while there. So this will be the first time that we've seen them play, at least in an official capacity, for a little while. Picks and bans for game number 1, though. Titans are going to be your first pick team. And immediately they're getting rid of the Olaron. This has actually been a pretty common ban, despite the fact that in a lot of these games, we haven't necessarily seen him take over. At least this weekend, he's not been the big deal that he used to be.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's a great ban when you first pick because you're oftentimes just going to get the RTO, and Olaron is a great counter to an RTO in any team fight. So if you get it out of the way, it makes RTO a lot better for yourselves. And Kings probably don't want to ban it on the other side. I like the fact that they're banning Aphrodite. We know Paul can play that even if he hasn't had to play it much recently. He's always a menace when he gets on it.
And this Khepri was another big, it's a pain point for a lot of these teams lately, but specifically, I think the Kings have been playing it a little more often. That concept of what you will see where either your jungler all-ins on somebody or somebody's finally able to get isolated, you go to get them killed, and then they're just brought back to life. I know, Ducky, though, one of my favorite questions that we've ever asked you, and of course conversations we had, was about this Odin and how you just said, I hate playing Odin, but you'll lock it in if your team needs it. So I'm sure you're happy to see that one banned away. Hell, Erlang Shin going to be joining them. Anything standing out to you on the screen so far?
Not really, no. The healer bans, I respect that, and then another healer is picked, who'd have thought. So I'd like to see Kings pick Cerberus here, or maybe they opt to get the other healer, the Sylvanas. Oh no, they went for RTO, okay.
It's got a little bit of healing, but can be trapped in those Umoja walls. So a similar counter than what Olaron is. When an RTO goes in, you're gonna be really threatened by those big CCs.
Now this has been a pick that I have fun talking about. So 83% win rate this weekend. Again, both of these teams are the 100% of that 83%. Neither of these teams have lost with this Tiamat yet. And the same thing, I think, almost can be said of this Camelot. Titans have dropped one game with him. But this Tiamat, top pick, top ban, has to be banned, has to be locked in first if you see her, except for a very few teams, and then just disappears off the face of the earth for 3 weeks. Yeah. And all of a sudden she's making a resurgence. I mean, Ducky, what is it about her that's really brought her back in?
I don't think it's what really brought her back in. She just kind of slept on a fair bit. Everyone was picking the Morrigan Cthulhu combo, so that's maybe why she wasn't picked as much. But she's always been a strong character. She's a pain to kill on the backline, for at least me and junglers.
I think that's true for everybody. I don't think anybody likes having to deal with her. You had mentioned the Morrigan. She gets banned out here, and we'll let the teams go through their second ban phase as we wrap it up. Camazot's Izanami there, Ro, for the Titans. We've talked about how Camazot's has been successful. This Izanami has a lot of pressure behind her, and that plus a Umoja feels like success for a duo lane.
That's some lane clear in that duo lane. I don't think Heimdall is going to keep up much with that. They could pick the Sylvanas on the other side, but again, that's another god that can get trapped by the Emoji wall, so it feels pretty scary going into the mid game. But they really do, well, in my opinion, need to answer some of that dual lane pressure. They could go the route of a Fafnir, which they liked yesterday, even without the Erlang Shen. Maybe, I guess it loses some value, and they did run Fafnir yesterday with Heimdall as well, and were able to get kills in that lane as well, so we'll see if they go for the same thing here.
Well, right now, it is a little bit more of a shotgun scatter for the Kings. They get rid of the Morrigan, they get rid of Nike, who has caused a lot of trouble for these teams as well. Ratatosker, which feels like it is twofold. Variety's been playing it, and we've seen Twig play it, so they're going to isolate that one a little bit. And it feels like Twig is probably #1 on their target list. Hunbats comes to my mind. I mean, if you're looking at Captain Twig, while his god pool has started to expand, admittedly, he's always performed a little bit better on certain picks lately.
Yeah, look, they might want to force him onto the Humbats, honestly. You know, they know he's been playing it, but it is a weaker early game god. It has the fast clip jungle clear, don't get me wrong, but it's easily pickable in the jungle. So, like, something like a Camazotz, especially if the Morrigan didn't get a banned away from them, or some other aggressive mid laner that Paul can play, or even the Emoja can find a Humbats in the jungle and poke him out a lot in the early game. And if they're going to go down the route of early pressure with the Emoja is an army dual lane, they can snowball pretty hard based off of that.
Well, Susanoo's the ban, so like you said, potentially forcing him into a Hunbats. We'll see where the jungle goes. Looking towards the other side, Titans still in need either of a jungler or a solo laner, which this Camazotz can flex into both. And they're mid. Ducky, what do you see on the horizon? Like, is it better to flex this? You've played some Camazotz solo. Would you prefer that, or would you rather that go over to layers?
They were probably waiting for Kings to pick their jungler. Twig needs to play a pressure jungler here. He needs to win his matchup, because I think the Kings have to play around mid lane this game, unless they get a winning matchup on the Artio. But against Camazotz or whatever Titans want to pick here, they should have the counter pick. So I don't see them winning solo side. So I'd like to see Twig pick like an Osiris or something like that. Titans, they could opt to put the camera in solo. He's fine into Artio. He has sustain. He won't lose that. And then they could pick maybe the Humbats, take it away from Twig if he did want to go that route.
Make things a little more of a tight squeeze for the Kings. Morgan Le Fay. Again, this one was actually wild to me. I think it was yesterday in one of the games the Kings had played. Just kind of, it was the last game they played yesterday. Banned it out of nowhere. Like, nobody had seen her for again, it feels like weeks. And they ban her up against the Leviathans at the time.
In that situation, Kings were trying to force Leviathans onto Morrigan because they knew they could beat it because they had beaten it the game before. But this game is the opposite. They ban the Morrigan away and play into the Morgan. And we see the Achilles into Artio. I didn't think that was a good matchup in this whole lane. What do you think?
I don't think it's a good matchup either.
Could it be a flex Achilles to the jungle and take Camazotz solo, maybe?
I mean, maybe. They may just want the Achilles for the execute late game for the Artio and the Faf.
Yeah.
Feed your brains out in lane, it doesn't matter, just come with your ult in team fights.
Yeah, sometimes you lose blue buffs and it just doesn't even matter, so I don't mind it too much, but it could be an Achilles jungle, we'll see. And that Achilles jungle could do well against the Humbats, but so does the
signs of fatigue. As far as I'm concerned, man, these guys have been carrying this energy. We saw it when they won Game 5 yesterday, how excited they were to be able to move on towards Worlds, and I think that doesn't mean they're out of hunger. These guys are certainly here to play here. Look, just talking to them when they came into the studio, it seemed as if they felt like they were going to win. They're projecting a dub here.
I mean, it was cool, calm, and collected. I was talking to Captain Twig a little bit. My man was watching a poker stream on Twitch. I mean, everyone was level-headed here for the Camelot Kings. You could say the same for the Tartarus Titans, though. These guys have come in, and I think it's been a while, Myth, outside of that one game that the Dragons took off this team. Variety and Benji both low. We wondered if we'd see some fireworks here in the solo lane, and already we do. But the Titans, I don't know if you could say they haven't been tested yet, Myth, but teams have been very hard-pressed to take games off of them.
Hard-pressed to take games or force strategies. Whoa. Big Man Tinks falls for first blood. Paul making it happen early.
Oh, that's horrific. Paul on Morgan Le Fay is able to get first blood, and they just walk at Big Man Tinks. Big Man Tinks has loved this Tiamat so far this weekend. It played a big role in the Camelot's win, or the Camelot Kings win yesterday over the Atlantis Leviathans. Looks like it's going to be a similar build out of this Tiamat, but he's going to need a little bit more time now. Morgan Le Fay, a pick that we have not seen that much of, able to get first blood.
It is. Morgan Le Fay does have a deceptively strong early game.
Big Man Tinks is going to overextend back into the mid lane, and now we're going to get a look back at exactly what happens here, Myth. That's just a blink in from layers. We know Camazotz has got a lot of damage early. Paul's got to hit that last auto attack, able to do so. And so now this Tiamat kept a little bit behind in a minute and a half without those beads. And so that's maybe regank potential for the Titans and their jungler.
But it's not the heaviest CC from the Tartarus Titans in the mid 2v2.
Genetics.
Just a slow from Camazotz. Genetics should be fine here. He's got the lead.
Right, if nothing else, it's a red buff invade that gets dropped down by Layers. Hammer from Genetics is out, but there is no rotation in from the rest of the Camelot Kings here. This is just going to be Genetics being walked down. Does he need some help? In fact, Layers has got lots of damage, and Genetics was there just to defend his red buff, and that is the longest kill you'll ever see. And the Titans now have a couple. They dropped the red buff, they dropped the purple buff, and the left side of the map is being decimated.
Man, I understand the mentality from Genetics there. That's a very high-risk play, trying to utilize the leap to confirm your own red buff.
The Camelot Kings have played throughout this weekend. You get Fafnir, you get some objective shred, you get a frenzy there, and so those early objectives is really where the Kings have been able to build up some of that gold lead. But now they're doing it against the Tartarus Titans team, who have a nice lead in mid. and feeling decent out of the jungle as well. Layers not quite level 5, but he doesn't need it, and it is horrific all over the map for the Camelot Kings right now. Mid has died, solo has died, support has gone down. You've lost your red and purple buff on left in the last couple rotations. Nowhere on the map appears to be safe. Layers is 102, 100% kill participation to start off the finals.
Do so. And here today, especially considering he's playing about a level and a half up, it's Big Man Tings just now ticking over to level 9, whereas Paul has been sitting comfortably at 10 for a little while here. I think, if anything, the Camelot Kings just kind of have to do exactly this. Allow Big Man Tings to solo out some of these back camps, maybe drop his minions in some of these side lanes and try and catch up on that farm. With this stacking build, he needs some time.
And this is what the desk expected we would see more of. The purple buff pressure from the Tartarus Titans. Is Twig here to defend, though? No, he's not. He's on the right side of the map. Genetics uses the transformation as the River's Rebuke is out as well, but the Dark Portal drops at his feet, and the purple buff will as well, and it goes over to Cyclone Spin, and that is easy as you like for the Tartarus Titans, Spin, which is scary enough. And now it's also Layers that feels like you can deal that hyper carry role and carry that damage into the late game.
You can. Camazotz has some phenomenal scaling as well as great dive potential in the late. Netroid in particular, being such a safe hunter, doesn't super work up against the Camazotz. Galarhorn for the knockup, Bat Out of Hell beats that. If you're teleporting away, you got to leap, you got to blink, you got Bat Out of Hell to chase down as well. But Layers has been spending a lot of time facilitating with damage this game, and it's netted about a level and a half down on Captain Twig.
There's a jump out from Layers, so maybe a chance for the Camelot Kings to
Great
find
block.
their first kill. Massive block from Genetics, but he is transformed. Fear no evil sends Layers right back the other way, and it is first kill of the set for the Camelot Kings. Twig survives on the heal, ticks through right at the last moment, but Layers has not been killed as Paul is rotated from the mid lane. Big Man Tings will have to leap away as well, and we got a 1-for-1.
Big Man Tings takes a lot of damage here. Paul, if he connects that, does get additional movement speed, but does not this time around, so Big Man Tings should be able to make his way out of that engagement. The Camelot Kings do a great job of just forcing the Tartarus Titans to rethink some of their aggression. Put Cyclone Spin in check. Try and force the ultimate out defensively from Paul, something along those lines to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. And it's been a couple instances of left side buff pressure from the Tartarus Titans. Has slowed down just a bit here as of late, as we've seen more fighting over on the right-hand side of the map. A decent power spike hitting the mid lane here, Myth. Big Man Tings able to finally finish off that Book of Thaw. Goes into the Book of the Dead, able to complete that there as well. Looks like some flat pen will be the third item option here. And this is what we wondered we would see more of. Despite maybe being a bit behind in the kill department, can the Camelot Kings transform and shred these objectives? And the answer is yes. Pyromancer, no chance to be contested by the Tartarus Titans.
If they're able to get to this point of the game, 14, 15 minutes in, where the neutral objectives are really the name of the game, that's where this draft from the Camelot Kings is going to come to fruition, not just in their ability to burn, but also in the team fight.
That said, now you're the Kings, you're rotating into this Gold Fury, what could be fight, and you don't have your Fafnir transformation, and you don't have Frenzy. So you're fighting, you're hoping for a secure here as the Gold Fury down to half HP. Cyclone Spin has tanked up a little bit of damage here. So now your ADC is missing half of their health. Aurora is missing some decent health as well. Big Man Ting sends a volley of damage towards Aurora here, and that connects. And it is reset by the Tartarus Titans, not happy with the state of the health bars.
The Camelot Kings now in a position where they can pull it themselves. They've TKO'd a couple members of the Tartarus Titans. Benji behind, though, could spell some issues for the Camelot Kings.
Benji is alone here, but the rest of the Titans on the other side of the Gold Fury pit. The Gold Fury taken down by the Camelot Kings, and it is an immediate disengage by the Camelot Kings. And you know what that does, Mifflin? That evens up the goal that has been.
Seems like both of these teams are happy with the pace of this one. And evaluating both the compositions holistically, I wouldn't say that any one team has a significant advantage in the late game.
Uh-oh, Genetics gets stunned here by Aurora. How costly will that be? Layers does some good damage here. Captain Twig, just throw out the monkey. Make sure to delay Layers on his re-engage here. That's a jump out from Layers. A bit of a meeting of the minds here on the right side of the map, on the Camelot Kings side of the jungle. Variety has taken a nice chunk of damage as Benji and Layers has sent some his way. And we are just exchanging farm at the moment. That's a blink in from Layers, and a Fear No Evil out. Maybe some beads get used there. One set by Layers is down. So we're trading some relics here, if nothing else.
Cursed Donk expended by Aurora does force the beads defensively from Captain Twig, but with all this emphasis on the right-hand side of the map, it's Netroid split pushing. If this tier 2 goes down, that's massive.
Man, Netroid has just been whittling away this tower. Dark Portal slows down the disengage. Cyclone Spin walks it.
What?
But Netroid dashes off to the side, and we will see no further in the 1v1. Paul should be able to rotate around this corner. The damage misses, but the second chance is there. And Paul
Hold on.
nearly goes down, but able to get it anyway. Netrioid gets a tier 1, tier 2 tower, and that's a nice play from
Can't
Netrioid.
really rotate over here unless he's willing to take a fight up against Captain Twig. If he decides to rotate in, both of these teams have done a lot to really control the pacing of this game. The fight might start at the Zony Fury, but that's not what you're fighting for. Everything that happens from here on out reflects on the Fire Giant.
And Myth, you know, you talk about hitting some important power spikes going into these objectives. The mid lane KDAs could not look more different. Both mid laners at a point of fear now for the enemy team. Oni Fury shredded by the Tartarus Titans, and outside of maybe an attempt from Genetics, the Titans will secure that for themselves. Over on the right, though, a bit of a grouping from the Camelot Kings. I don't know if there's enough damage onto Benji here. He'll get the stun. They'll have to use the beads in trade. Aurora takes some damage here in the mid lane, but the individual members of the Titans that have been caught out have been able to disengage. But how about the rest here in mid? To fear no evil from Captain Twig to send the Titans running, and Big Man takes from range. Grabs the first kill of the mid lane fight. Benji's alone off to the right here within execute threshold, but will not take the attempt.
Lairs does have the Sacred Monkey on him, but Captain Twig too low HP to re-engage. The Tartarus Titans may have gotten away with just losing Aurora this time around. And take a peek at the beads, Dave. 130 seconds on Lairs, 130 seconds on Benji as well. Even Cyclone Spin forced to use his in that fight. Aurora loses out. That means that Captain Twig in this next engagement could just go massive.
I think all the beat, if I'm reading this properly, all the beads for Lairs, Aurora, and Cyclone Spin are all in sync. I have to imagine that was the Fear No Evil at the start of the fight that sent them running, and they had to use the beads there. But how about this? The Fire Giant pulled by the Camelot Kings, and Variety's just buying so much time here. You gotta commit onto this one if you're the Camelot Kings, and they do. And they take down the FG. Execute should be there, and it sure is. One of the buffs stripped away. Genetics walking away, and the Camelot Kings get the big one.
Yeah, Variety for Fire Giants, a trade you're willing to take every single time.
Even as far as gold goes, close to that in the experience department. But it's just that macro play of the Camelot Kings that has been touted all weekend long. And already in game one, they're taking it to the Titans.
They are. And the Titans have been struggling to finish off kills. In that last fight, Netroid gets out with sub 100 HP, as does Captain Twig. If the Tartarus Titans could just clean up that chase down, keep Benji a little bit healthier throughout the initial parts of these engagements, maybe it goes better for them. But it is a large grouping from the Camelot Kings. They want this tier 2.
Rada Tahuti finished up for Paul. That might help finish off some of those low health targets if the fights are able to continue the way that they have been. Nice double stun from Big Man Tings. Keep Paul in a point of nervousness, and a 4-man Fear No Evil from Captain Twig just secures the tier 2 tower in mid. Some pressure on the tier 1 on right.
To buy time, and there's only about a minute and a half or so left on this Fire Giant power play.
Titans rotating around the blue buff here. You're not going to put up a defense under a tier 1, maybe under your tier 2. Captain Twig's 002, Lairs is 204. If you're looking at both the jungle KDAs, you're saying Lairs has had infinitely more impact on this game, and that's just not the case. I mean, even the Fear No Evils from Captain Twig have done a lot as far as utility goes in taking those beads away. So he deserves his day in the sun, as the Camelot Kings will turn their eyes towards the tier 2 on right. You got 55 seconds left on the first FG buff of the game, and you have set the stage so well, the Camelot Kings have, for closing out game 1 if you're able to find another good fight around the Fire Giant. You got to watch out for Lairs here, who's hovering around the jungle, securing up some of that back farm. There's always that opportunity to dive on the back line if they're left unchecked.
Twig's ultimate's coming up just now, which should be the go button for the Camelot Kings.
Bead still down. 4 Paul, 4 Cyclone Spin. Lairs bat out of hell. He's found Netrioid with some good damage. Benji walks forward and gets the stun onto Variety. So the front line buying space for the Tartarus Titans now. River's Rebuke, that is locked in a couple, but Phantom immediately used, and that's a great disengage for the Camelot Kings. Now Captain Twig's got to leave as well. All of this cleave damage is massive from the Tartarus Titans. Can you finish off the low hill targets? That's been your issue all game long if you're the Titans, and you've got a great opportunity to flip this game around. Twig has gone back in, and he has found the back line. Paul is the first to go down, and Benji answers.
Variety now on the chase, trying to lock down the Camelot Kings, surging forward.
Oh, big stun onto Lairs as he will leap away as well, and BMT going massive. He's got another in this fight, and Aurora is the second casualty. 45 seconds on both of the respawns, and 45 seconds on the FG.
Captain Twig is impressed mightily in these team fights, and now Lairs in some trouble, does not have bat out of hell. Variety, he's got the lockdown.
Oh, and this would be massive. It would be a huge stagger death in the the Camelot Kings would have such an easier time securing the Fire Giant in just a moment. Their eyes may be towards the Phoenix instead. There are still 20 seconds on the respawns. Do you need the Fire Giant? You got a tanky Benji in front of you and a damage-dealing Cyclone Spin in the backline. You've got to play this one perfectly if you're the Camelot Kings. Could be Phoenix and out is the answer. Variety taking a decent amount of damage, but Cyclone Spin has to dash away. He's taking some damage as well. Right side Phoenix gone. Camelot Kings will take a deep breath, and so will
Tartarus Titans step forward. It's putting a little bit of damage into Twig, drop him down to 80%. Another poke drops him down to about 50%. But despite all of that, it is an aggressive Sacred Monkey that bounces him into the back line to find a 3-man ultimate, which completely changes the fight.
No way, right? The Tartarus Titans are pulling this. Layers is back in base. Fear No Evil catches out 3 of the members around the FG. Double ticks on Benji. Fire Giant slow. That's Variety. Genetics. They're walking into the FG pit. The Fire Giant has been reset.
Massive.
Captain Twig. I'll take that one to go, please. And the Camelot Kings turn it around. And they'll grab the FG for themselves. Aurora melted away. And I can smell the end of game 1.
Naturoid starting to move his way forward as well. Benji and Paul should be able to make their way out. With the help of Layers, this game is not necessarily over just yet, but it might as well be, man. This is hard.
Layers, Paul, they've got to go massive here. And Benji's got a tank. A whole hell of a lot of damage. The Tartarus Titans, they came out swinging, and the Camelot Kings bought their time. This game was 7-2 kills in favor of the Tartarus Titans at one point. It is now 8-7 for the Camelot Kings. A 5-1 swing. Frenzy used. Titan is decimated, and the Camelot Kings walking to a Game 1 win.
That World Championship, you can see when those are going to be going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the quarter semis, and of course the finals. And a lot of other cool things that are going to be going on.
Got 2 objectives, they were fairly even, so they just win teamfights.
Yeah, I think the important thing was the Humbats here as well, because like the early pressure I thought was going to be put onto the Humbats, and they got kills elsewhere, and Captain Twig kind of got away with just kind of farming for a little while. He ended up stealing the Scorpion for the solo lane, and then stole it again actually a couple minutes later. So that adds a lot of value to their overall gold coffers, and that gets them to the point that they need to be, is where Fafnir is rotating and they can 4-man or 3-man these objectives like they did to the Pyromancer eventually. They did end up giving up some objectives, but it's kind of no problem when you're at that point in the game with the Humbats in those team fights. You're happy regardless, because look how much value he's getting in team fights like this.
And there were several moments. First off, this one, he just did Sans ult, didn't need it for that engagement. But a lot of really good deep dives, either forcing 4 pairs of beads, I believe, at one point, or forcing, well, kills, realistically, to happen. The Titans to fall back, I know, happened around the Tier 2 and mid. Also worth noting, it's still a 100% win rate for the Kings when they have Tiamat. And it was, what, like a 4.5 KDA there for big man? So, like, I'm starting to sense, like, there's a whole slew of problems here, but I don't know how to adjust to this. I mean, if you're the Titans, you dealt with Oleron, Khepri, Erlong, Shen, and the Kings still looked that good. Ducky, how do you adapt?
They might need to take away the Humbats just so the Kings don't have such a strong CC for the mid-game fights. And then hopefully they can push their lead more in the early game, which is their strong suit with these picks.
Try to find...
Expect the Titans to be able to pressure them some more, and that's why they gave them the Humbats pick, because they would be able to pressure them a lot in the early game. I just think it was such a crucial moment, 2 moments, that the Humbats was able to steal away both of those Scorpions.
Well, worth noting, yesterday, the Titans lost game number 1, and then just absolutely came back with a vengeance in games 2, 3, and 4. We'll see if they can do that again here as the Kings are preparing themselves. Once again, Titans are going to be first pick for game number 2. And so far, the bans, well, they're pretty much the exact same. If they're going to follow this route, this will be a Khepri. It was Aphrodite and Hell on the other side. Erlong Shin jumps up in priority here, but it was still banned last time. And this feels like a big pick, specifically against the Kings. When Twig is playing anything that he's good at, it just feels like it changes the entire dynamic of that team, Ducky.
Yeah, auto attackers are very strong as well for doing the early Scorpions on both sides of the map. So they probably want to get rid of him just so Twig doesn't get that much farm. Because last game he was a little back camp bandit, so he was getting a lot of XP on the board. It's good to take it away.
They might be, yeah, I was about to say, they might be just forgetting this Khepri ban that they had last game, because he's stronger than Fafnir anyway. So if Fafnir and Khepri are like some of his top gods, why ban one away and just let him have the other?
Yeah.
Instead, they're going to ban away the Heimdall that clearly Netroid's very comfortable on.
Yeah, there was the point, Netroid virtually almost got 2 solo kills separately. If he had gotten a little luckier with some crit, man, he got the tower. Yeah, that Heimdall was problematic. But the thing is like, I'm thinking of Netroid, and I can think of like 10 other hunters, it feels like, that he plays really well. But the Tiamat first pick is a huge adjustment here for the Titans. Ducky, how are you feeling about taking this, not just away from the Kings, but getting it for Paul?
I think this is strong, especially with Paul playing it. He plays very aggressive in mid, and they usually pump farm into him, at least a lot of the time. So it'd be good to get that Tiamat ahead.
Yeah, and you actually said, Gore, I think both teams had 100% win ratio with Tiamat. Well, Kings just won again with it, and now Titans, okay, our turn.
And I'm going to say this, if the Titans win this game and it just keeps going like that, at some point someone just has to ban the Tiamat so we don't know who's going to win.
That's right, yeah.
Up front.
Looks like they do prefer the Khepri over the Fafnir, so they're just going to take it up since it's open.
Now this is an interesting, so we saw what the RDO did, and despite it was cheeky ganks, it wasn't unlucky, he didn't win that lane, it was help from external forces that brought it over. So RDO should theoretically have some good matchups over pretty much against everybody, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'd probably still see Titans pick up the Achilles or Nike, just because they have Khepri on the board now, so the Achilles is a lot stronger for the Titans team. However, I don't know if they'll win lane like they did last time. I think Variety will be very conscious of the ganks.
Well, the Camazotz and the Emoja seem to be a familiar theme for the Titans. They go back to that. When RDO, Hunbats, both of them were widely successful in game number 1 row. They add the Khepri to it. It feels like that's just, again, still late game, but really, really good team fight.
Yeah, they're just sticking with what they've got already. You know, they say both teams said they had strategies going into today, and both teams are confident in their own strategies. Kings took the win, and they're going to go for it again. Titans adjust a little bit by banning the Heimdall, leaving open the Khepri, but still go with the Camazotz and Umoja. Now they have to ban, I was thinking Soul Laners, but I guess, you know, Variety's just saying, I'm Martio, I don't care, play whatever you want, kind of thing.
Well, it does open up that conversation. You had mentioned the Achilles being a little bit more valuable than the Nike. We'll see if the Kings opt to ban like Charybdis plus Achilles, although it feels weird to try and go directly towards Cyclone Spin and only take away the Charybdis. Although isolating maybe some of that survivability is helpful.
They could ban away the Nike. Again, that's more survivability on any of the gods, and that's also a safer lane against Artio. But also, ban away the Nike kind of forces them into the Achilles, or they just take the Camazotz solid, which they can still do, because they just beat the Achilles, so they want to play against it again.
Be ideal for them. Uller and Neath are banned out here by the Titans, something that would seem really, really weird if you were watching them pretty much any other time this year. It's not picks that have been going to, but this weekend it is definitely a little more deadly out of the mid lane.
That's right.
Yes,
those are
you're
not
hearing that
Metroid
accurately.
picks. Those are the BMT picks of new low ping BMT.
Izanami gets locked in. Now, and Ducky, when I was talking about, hey, I can think of like 10 other hunters for Netroid, this was one of the top ones that came to my mind.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of duo pressure on the King side, which is nice change from last game, where they just kind of sat back and chilled. So hopefully that duo lane will be pretty fine. And Netroid did really well, even though he was behind on the Heim. So I'd like to see him push this in this game.
Yeah, I think they kind of like evened out their pressure a bit. I thought last game they were going to struggle in the early game, which they did, to be fair, but now they've got two side lanes that both have pressure to get this Humbats and whatever mid laner they choose into the mid-late game.
Now, I know Biggie is in an absolute serious mood for this game, but he looks like he's about to go fishing, and I just have to throw that out there. Like, that is what is on my mind when I look at him. Of course, maybe he's fishing for some specific picks. You had mentioned this earlier, ban the Nike, force them into the Achilles since they just beat it. But with the Khepri, Ducky, you had noted this, and Ro, you can touch on this as well. The Execute being available is going to be helpful in those later team fights.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be strong for the Titans. They need to play this game a lot stronger in like the 8-minute mark. They need to push their leads, otherwise it's just going to be the same run as last game.
It's pretty telling as well that they just go to the Achilles even though it doesn't have a great matchup into the RTO. It just doesn't seem that they want to play any other junglers than Camazotz right now.
Maybe stifling layers a little bit. Maybe it's falling. I mean, we were talking about it. Like, this Artemis is the first, like, new quote-unquote pick I think I've seen for the Titans in 5 weeks, if anything. And even still, we saw it from the Leviathans first yesterday, so it's not even like they're completely breaking new ground. Feels like they are following a very similar path. And this composition and the Artemis, how does it fit into all of this, especially with a matchup versus these?
The difference between these two mid laners as of now is the relic selection as well as the builds. It's Aegis first off for big man Tiggs, and that makes sense. What CC is he worried about in the 2v2? A stun from Paul, pretty avoidable, I'd say. Layers really only has the slow, so it's more so that damage output that you want to concern yourselves with, whereas Paul, well, he's got a Captain Twig on the other side. And what is a Captain Twig? That's a Hun bot. My man's going to hit you with Fear No Evil.
Always feels like this time of year, Myth, that Scylla and those secure mages start to come back into the meta just a little bit. Nice root onto Aurora there. A good chunk of damage from Netrioid. Expect there to be some pressure here over in the dual lane. But around this time of year, you see the secure mages start to pop up a little bit. Saw a little bit of Ra yesterday. Scylla, of course, in that conversation. I'm a monster. Remember, we have so much data on this pick from last year's Worlds, and it was Paul who helped his team win Worlds last year on the Scylla. PK Scylla available in the Smite World Championship bundle here. All the CC connecting from both of the mid laners. So junglers will just head right on back. It's going to have to be a different style of game here from the Camelot Kings. Good damage on the Cyclone Spin. If Netrioid's level 5 there, you're maybe seeing Genetics and Netrioid go in underneath the tier 1 tower. And that could happen around this wave. That's a nice pullback from the Riptide. Keep the Camelot Kings pushed up. Maybe opens things up to some pressure from layers. But now that Netrioid and Genetics are both level 5 off of that wave, gotta be careful if you're the Tartarus Titans. Captain Twig rotates over to solo, and it's Benji locked in place beneath his tier 1 tower. And the Fear No Evil finds its value early. The Camelot Kings in Variety off to first blood.
Man, this Hunbots is just such a menace on the map, isn't it? Variety already has the lane advantage playing Ardio into the Achilles, but now you've got the CC advantage. Benji forced to utilize the majority of his kit to escape the initial engagement. Variety stuck around and he's low.
Can Layers deal enough damage here in the 2 versus 1, or is he going to pay for it with his life? Bat out of hell awaits. And it looks like that's going to be the defensive use. Variety has healed up just fine.
Uh-oh.
And there is no re-engage. I thought there might have been from Twig. But Layers gets a look at a return kill. Certainly have the opportunity to do so. More secure, less shred maybe. Although, still plenty of shred for the Camelot Kings. It's been around, it's the Pyromancer rotation into Gold Fury that we've seen a good bit. But it looks like it might be looming towards a Gold Fury fight this time. Keep your eyes on Variety. He's in the mid lane right now. Might be able to just split those.
Where'd he go? What?
Oh my god! He is gone! I'm thinking a fight's gonna break out, and Layers did too. But he missed the train, and he is back in base for 15 seconds.
Was that just like Crush and an auto attack from Netrioid? Layers actually vanished.
I actually maybe not. I don't know if I've seen someone die that fast in a long time. Scary enough that they'll back away. And if you didn't see it the first time,
how could you?
We'll get a look back. Oh, and that is an abduct into the Crush, into the damage from Netrioid, the 2 there. Just fine. And they've done one better. They've taken the lead by about 500 gold or so going into the mid-game point. A little bit of XP on their side as well. But it's a Pyromancer pull from the Titans. That'll close up this gap just a little bit. Variety, I don't think, has the legs to get here in time. And the Titans make quick work of a neutral objective. But on the other side, Myth, it's a Gold Fury pull for the Kings.
But this is dangerous. The Tartarus Titans certainly know this is happening, and the burn is not incredibly fast.
But you've got all of the security. You gotta make good use of that. And the Camelot Kings do secure the Gold Fury, but what have you spent? Have you cost the life of your jungler? Good CC on the back end. Bat out of hell.
Good
does
heals.
Enough damage. Scarab's Blessing, not needed, but does delay the re-engage. Captain Twig will blink away. A little bit of damage from Layers over the wall, and the Camelot Kings get out alive.
Textbook disengage. The heals from Variety, the Scarab's Blessing, and now it's a textbook re-engage for the Camelot Kings.
Oh, Aurora's taking a lot of damage, but the healing will keep the emoji on the map for the time being. No ranged damage secure this time. All of it used on the Gold Fury. Otherwise, Aurora would have been in a little bit more trouble. Cyclone Spin, no ult, no beads.
Late game. I think that playing around Paul is an answer that a lot of teams have come up with in the past. But Paul doesn't allow that to be the answer for the entirety of the match.
Oh, no.
Eventually, someone's going to have to deal with them.
Aurora walks forward, and I'm not sure he's going to walk out. The Riptide was there. The second one is as well, but Fear No Evil spent. So is the Dark Portal. You don't love that if you're the Camelot Kings. You do love that you're able to get the kill onto Aurora nonetheless. You're gonna, but still a pick that I think holds some value. We saw Zapman have great games on this Artemis yesterday.
Yeah, Artemis has got some new items that you can look towards as well. Fail Not really works with that god.
Haven't seen Layers use the blink much this game. He'll use it this time, and Captain Twig will be swooped on through the Scarab's Blessing. Perfect from Genex, and he dashes away. The last bit of damage from Aurora. Connects onto Twig, but it's not enough to kill him off. Aurora now rooted back in place, and he's got no Omi. He's just going to have to walk out of this fight. Paul, with that Soul Gem, sends out some healing to his team. You're playing on a knife's edge there, and that is a good play from Genetics to keep his jungler on the map. Captain Twig is able to maintain both relics.
Yeah, that is so nice for Twig, not only maintaining both relics, but also his own life. And in exchange for the Tartarus Titans junglers, engage and safety. You lose the blink, you lose the beads, you lose the opportunity to get proactive on the map for at least 2 minutes. That said, 2 minutes is pretty a long time, especially considering Pyromancer and Gold coming up soon.
This is just the pinnacle of Capri, isn't it? I'm going to time it right there. right as the damage from Aurora connected. And nearly actually ended up dying just because of where the Scarab's Blessing revived Captain Twig.
Burned the Pyromancer so quickly, and now they've got the rotation path in here as well. They're just going to pull it.
And what are the Titans doing? Well, Aurora's close. I mean, you can attempt to steal with Umoja, but with all the secure that the Kings have, you're hard-pressed to take it away. And that is a quick Oni Fury pull and secure by the Camelot Kings, and there is no answer from the Tartarus Titans. Another chunk of gold trickles into the back pockets of the Camelot Kings. You spent the I'm a Monster, so your team fight damage may be a bit mitigated if you're the Camelot Kings. That might open up the door to a Tier 1 for the Titans.
Tier 1 is a nice consolation prize, I suppose, just opening up the map state, but where did it put you?
There's a Fear No Evil awaiting in the wings, and it has got 4 members of the Titans. Beads used by 3. The Titans disengage immediately in the mid lane. And how many times, Miff, did we see that in game 1?
Too many.
Captain Twig, and it's like the same KDA. He's 0-0-3. It's not like all these kills are rolling through.
We've seen from Twig all year.
Right, we're quote, forcing Twig onto the Hunbats later on in the draft. He's fine with it.
Okay, he loves it.
I think Twig is just A-okay with that. That's Sick'em. And Crush missed. Big Man Tings walked down, Book of the Dead. That'll help buy some time. And now Benji, have you overextended? Execute says no, but you do have to spend your ultimate. Now Layers just to the side as Big Man Tings on that damage. Beads used by Layers. There's one set of beads left on the map for the Tartarus Titans.
Wow!
Does not have him. Netrioid, I'll take the solo kill. Yes, please. And Paul now jumping back into Netrioid, who's on the back. He got the knockup. And there's a Scarab's Blessing on Netrioid as he walks forward, and he is dealing the damage to Paul. He'll dash out over the wall. Layers is in on the chase, but it looks like the Izanami will survive.
Yeah, but Layers probably won't. Variety just a couple inches away
Twig
from
is
the
here.
claw swipe.
I don't know where that Fear No Evil is on cooldown. Nice Riptide back from Aurora to help keep the Camazots on the map. And Aurora comes up big in a small moment that makes a big difference for Layers in his life, but that is another great rotation in from the Camelot Kings.
In game 1, so the Tartarus Titans have got to put respect on that one, but we got to sing his praises, man. We missed it. Netrioid soloed Cyclone Spin in the middle of a team fight.
And that was the one kill we got. Fire Giant pulled, and Fire Giant down to half. Dark Portal and I'm a Monster. You would love to only have to use one or the other on the objective, usually the I'm a Monster. But if you're able to get good value elsewhere in the fight, the Camelot Kings would certainly be happy about it. Beads coming off of cooldown. Paul still 15 seconds away. Variety gets jumped on here. 3-man stun. River's Rebuke just forces him to the left, and the Riptide does the same. But Variety's able to walk out for all of those troubles with half HP. And River's Rebuke being down, especially in one of these jungle fights, big.
It is massive. Variety also holds on to all of his relics, doesn't panic onk, doesn't have to blink out, so he's still incredibly strong, just needs to heal up a little bit, and then he's right back in the fight, engaging every single time.
Still has Bulwark of Hope as well. That one not on cooldown, so he'll be able to maintain that shielding as the fight goes on. Luckily for the Tartarus Titans, those beads that Captain Twig took away, now back. And so it's just the blink from Benji that gets used in that last engagement. You're not necessarily feeling comfortable taking these fights in just yet. Maybe if the Camelot Kings use enough on an objective, you're able to get a kill on the other side. Or gets used onto Variety again, but if anything, he is gaining health. If anything, the RDO is healing in the mid lane. Cyclone Spin drops the ultimate yet again. Fire Giant taking it down in the meantime. Working in the mid lane, but the Camelot King shred the objective on right.
Variety is a lightning rod for aggression. He just walks at him in. The Tartarus Titans say, jump him, get him. We got to take him out. He's alone. You can't. You cannot kill a Spirit Robe, Bulwark of Hope, Mystical Mail, Breastplate of Valor, RDO with the damage mitigation built into her kit.
Still, that burst damage with the Soul Reaver completed, a little bit of flat pan after the fact, depending on where that item goes. Certainly will be hitting, but that Ob Shard now completed for Paul could be a big spike.
Yeah, Big Man Tings just jumps 2 tiers in the damage charts by landing one ability, does it again by landing another. He's dealing so much now that Benji or Roar have to feel the threat of Big Man Tings. This Scylla is a tank shredder, essentially, with this build, and also a tank herself, just by having 80% HP shield, essentially.
Need something out of Layers here towards the end of this game as well. Haven't seen much from the Camazots yet this game, only above the supports in the damage category. And Layers is far enough in his build, especially with that Heartseeker completed. Should see some backline health bars melting down. That said, this is a slow play of a Fire Giant.
Not allow this Hunbots to blink into your backline. If his blink is available and he's got ult, he is a threat by existing.
I don't want to be in combat with Captain Twig. I don't know if anyone does, but you got to do it to keep the rest of your team alive. Fire Giant up, and a couple stray auto attacks chip away. A nice little bit of damage. That's a lot. onto Aurora. That's supposed to be your tank. You're going to use some of that Omi to sustain yourself up. Camelot Kings not shying away from pulling some damage onto the Fire Giant as Benji hovers around the right. Paul mirroring his solo laner here. Layers still looking for that opportunity to engage. He's got Blink, does not have beads though. Beads taken away off of Layers. So that bat out of hell is going to have to be the get out of jail card for the Tartarus Titans jungler. Captain Twig hovering over to the left. You can sense it. The moment that Blink is back off of the combat cooldown. Could be an engage, but the Titans showing up in force. Variety, he goes in first, finds 2 stuns, gets the beads off of Paul, who has to jump away, and that's setting up now for future engage. If Captain Twig hits it, Paul doesn't have beads.
Yeah, so the comms are Variety saying, hey, I got Paul's beads, and Twig says, nice, nice, I'm going to get him now in the future. Look at the damage output from the Camelot Kings. They're just poking and prodding, and the Tartarus Titans have to keep stepping up and keep getting hit. Fortunately for Cyclone Spin, he's got a healer right behind him in Aurora and some back camps to heal up on himself, but losing out on these relics is massive.
We've already gotten the back camps down though, so Cyclone's gonna have to find other ways to sustain. Variety's taking the most damage now in this re-engagement on the right. Wave's okay for the Titans right now. Nothing really threatening your Phoenixes, so no real need to force the issue. Variety considering going back here. Cyclone Spin will just top off that health bar on the Fire Giant. Big Man Tings is over to the right. Can you hit the Sikkim Crush? I'm a monster. Cyclone Spin knows he's there. Send some damage his way. It is a reset now for Captain Twig. Titans not able to engage quick enough, so the 4v5 will go missing.
Take a peek at the Camelot Kings relics, though. All beads available, Aegis's as well, Phantom and Meditation still up, Cursed Ankh. So once they are able to fully commit to an engagement, and that's when Captain Twig decides to dedicate his ultimate, I think the Camelot Kings are feeling very strong and happy here.
Roar went back. I don't know if the Kings know that, but they're taking advantage of it knowingly or unknowingly. Fire Giant pulled down to half HP. Aurora still walking back from base just by the speed buff now. And so he'll join the rest of the Titans on their defense of this Fire Giant. Surprised with how slow the Camelot Kings are playing this. You've got the secure, you've got the ability to take it down, and then the Titans just give them too much space. We're 10 seconds away from that one being enhanced. It's a best of 5 set against the Tartarus Titans, who some had winning all of the Phase 3 playoffs. You're feeling good. You're feeling like you're playing with house money, but there is still a defense by the Titans to be had, maybe under their left Phoenix.
Paul's done a good job of pushing up the mid waves as well, has his minions doing his bidding there. It's the Camelot Kings stacked up as 5. Seems like it's going to be a true 5-on-5 engagement. No split push shenanigans. It's not going to be a 3-2 like we saw in sets of past. It can be a win or lose situation for the Camelot Kings here.
And a decent power spike difference for the Hunters as well. There's a Deathbringer fully completed for Netroid going into this fight, where Cyclone Spin still just in a tier 2 item, not even in the crit tree. So if Netroid can find some damage here, which he should be able to, as Benji walks forward, Aurora takes half of his HP. Cyclone Spin does the same as well. Netroid's ult is now down. And so the Titans have at least weathered one storm while maintaining most of their Phoenix's health.
It's just Dark Portal, though. It's just Netroid's ultimate. That's one of the lowest value ults on the Camelot Kings right now. Twig it first.
And he's got the backline. Cyclone Spin beads. Still up because he uses the board to mitigate that Fear No Evil. I'm a monster up and over the wall from Big Man Tings, but here comes Layers with a bat out of hell, and it looks like, Myth, the Titans have done a good job in repelling the initial attack.
A great defense from the Tartarus Titans. They only lose 1 set of beads. Captain Twig does not come up massive. It's just Benji.
Benji still playing that separator on the front. His beads are down. And so the Camelot Kings now without one of their big engages. That's got to be a win for the Tartarus Titans.
Massive.
Every single time that Fear No Evil has come in, bad things have happened for the Tartarus Titans. You lose some beads, but at least this time around, you don't lose anyone's life, and not much damage has been put onto the Phoenix. Now it does, as the auto attacks fly in from Netroid in the back. The Phoenix finally goes down. It looks like the Kings, they don't want anything else. They'll back off. Spin makes it back to base. The Camelot Kings hover back towards the Fire Giant. Remember, that Fire Giant, that first one was 10 seconds away from being enhanced. And so you're maybe looking at a totally different push if that's an enhanced Fire Giant for the Camelot Kings. The Titans were able to put up a decent defense, that being said. But Miff, you might need to show up a little bit stronger around this enhanced Fire Giant.
And as of right now, you don't, because Netroid's on the opposite side of the map waiting for the Oni Fury to spawn up. Seems like the Camelot Kings are going for like a pump fake on the Fire Giant, just waiting for the Tartarus Titans to show up.
Can the Titans just do it? Can the Titans just do it? The Camelot Kings don't have their Hunter here immediately, but this is a slow play from the Titans. Netroid pumping back towards the Oni Fury, now back towards the Fire Giant, and it is slowly being whittled away, but Captain Twig, that's massive!
Huge!
Fear No Evil gets used, but so does the Scarab's Blessing. This is the opening that the Titans have been looking for. They've been losing every aspect of this game, but this this one, this fight is for the Tartarus Titans. Captain Twig is down first. Variety executed second, and the Titans have found 2 kills.
The Camelot Kings decide to get a little bit too fancy here. Genetics far out of position.
Oh, he's gone.
He should fall down, but if the Tartarus Titans want to leave him alive, who cares? It's just a Khepri. You might as well just head over towards the Fire Giant. Layers on the chase.
What can the Camelot Kings do here? Genetics is just buying some time. Look at Big Man Tings and Netrui. They're
No way.
on the left side of the map. They will go over the wall here. Can Genetics
No way.
back? That's a question. Genetics now dead. Enhanced Fire Giant still there. Big Man Tings and Netrui. They are backdooring.
Surely
the
not.
Backdoor Kings, the Tartarus Titans. Yeah, you win a fight, but at what cost? Game 2. Yeah, baby. Big Man Tings and Netrui get it done.
That is some of the best macro play we've ever seen. The Camelot Kings, they went off the back of macro, time in and time out. This has been the phase of Titan backdoors. The Camelot Kings, it looks like just one major mistake cost them the game. But
we knew Khepri was off doing pretty much nothing, getting chased around, but he wasn't going to die. But meanwhile, Genetics, I assume, is calling to end the game. And look at this burst damage. The noises we made in the green room when that happened.
Yeah, we were confused.
I know, Ducky, we had talked about it. In Game 1, the conversation was, okay, cool, Titans, you got your early game lead, and then you just got to push it. You got to do more with that, whether it's objectives, what have you. They didn't get the opportunity this time around. The only fight they won, they lost the game because they won it.
Yeah, because like even times like this where Layers is hunting for Captain Twig like he should be to get this Humbats on the back foot, Khepri's there to save him.
Made things just difficult, I think, if you're the Titans here. How do you bounce back from something? I'm like, I guess, ignore the mental portion of an end like this, where just a lone Izanami and Scylla. Rest of the team's dead for another 20 seconds minimum at this point. It's still a minute before Genetics comes back. If you ignore the mental after that, where do you start to try and bounce back in a set when you're down 2-0, especially after the way the Kings have won?
Well, I did not know that's what happened because I was in the bathroom. So that is nice to see. But yeah, that is rough for the Titans mental. I'd like to see them either take away the Humbats or pick it. I don't think the Camazotz has been great, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I have to agree.
So I'd like to see a different jungler for Layers so he can pop off.
I'd like to see a different style altogether. I think both games so far we've expected Titans to just kind of dominate the early game and stop Kings from scaling well into the late game, but it seems they can't really do that, at least with their current picks, so I'd prefer they maybe switch it up a bit and meet Kings in the late game.
Fire minions in left lane,
Uh-huh.
and then the Titans were on Fire Giant.
Okay.
Genetics was running down here over solo lane. Variety and Twig were dead.
Mm-hmm.
And Netroid and Big Man just kind of walked through the jungle, over the wall, and killed the Titan.
Did they have minions?
They walked in without minions.
They had minions coming
just
kind of
because you
behind
missed
them.
that, I wanted you to have the full picture as to what happened there.
Yeah,
the fire minions were like close by, but I don't think they made it in by the time they killed the Titan.
Extra credit to them as well, because the fire minions were close by and kind of fighting a wave already. They could have gone to clear that wave and taken the fire minions with them, but that would have shown them on the vision, and that would have given Titans more time to back. But they said, you know what, we don't need the minions, we can end anyway, and they went straight towards it.
I can't believe they killed a whole Titan by themselves. That's crazy. That's the boss of the map. It's that easy to kill? No way.
That's what I was saying when we got backdoored by Scarab.
Yeah.
I can't tell how much of that was sarcastic and how much of it wasn't. We'll figure that out. After we get through picks and bans, Titans once again opt for first pick here up against the Kings. And lo and behold, the very first thing they decide to ban out is Twig and this Hunbats.
Yeah, they'll probably... I'd like to see them pick Tiamat again just to take it away from Big Man. I didn't really get to see the Scylla in action other than when Layers got destroyed at Gold Fury. So... Oh yeah, the Erlang was open. I completely forgot about Erlang.
Smart, because you're kind of taking two gods away from Twig as well. Because you got the Humbats ban, take away the Erlang. That's probably some of the best utility Twig has. The only other god I think we've seen him play is Ratatoskr. I think have we seen Gilgamesh banned or picked?
I'm not sure.
That's definitely
I think
one
he
he's
was
pulled out in the Pro
up
League
against
before.
Scarabs. He's been like banned off, but like otherwise, at least for this set, he hasn't even been looked at.
Say, unless he wants the Ratatoskr again, that might be one of his go-tos this set.
Well, we were talking about Tiamat. First off, Artio, 100% win rate for this team this set. I think the Kings played her once yesterday. I know she lost probably another couple of times this weekend. Tiamat, though, still has the 100% win rate for just the Kings. The Titans, unfortunately, lose that in this last game. And this is starting to feel like things are shifting in their favor. With Erlang Shen there, I mean, you have some early combat, but they haven't been caring about the early combat on the other side. The Kings are like, cool, here are two pieces that have been working well for us, and they lock it right back in.
I do prefer the Erlang switch up over the Camozots though, because the Camozots just wasn't bringing much to the rest of the team. It was just the damage, and then again, it wasn't enough. You know, I don't think a Camozots is killing a Tiamat, especially if there's a support, very like supporty support, protecting support on genetics. So I prefer the Erlang switch up, and you can get some utility out of that taunt and the root as well.
Yeah, it's nice for the Titans to opt for more CC, and it definitely takes the Camo away from layers, which is what I was hoping for. They may still pick it in solo, though.
They could. Yeah.
I don't want them to, but they may do that.
I'd also don't want them to take the Achilles into the Artio again. The Artio had an even better game last game, even with the low-pressure Humbats jungle, so... But, we'll see.
Well, this will be the third game in a row they've got the Yamoja. And it has not been doing too well. 17% win rate across 6 games for this event. Maybe not feeling the way you want it to. Izanami is well locked in. And this goes back to what we were talking about in game number 1. Ducky, this is just an absolute control, at least in the duo lane, in terms of pressure.
Yeah, the Kings would probably hop for Haim, so that he's safe in lane. Again, they're just going to go for late game again. Twig will probably pick a CC jungler. I mean, Daji is looking pretty good at the moment with Yamoja and Erlang on the board, if he wants to opt for that. They may ban it away, though, here. Kings will probably ban Nike again. They may force the Achilles, because it's not been looking... Actually, no, last game we did pretty well, right? You got a lot of damage on the board.
You got a lot of damage on the board. Pretty well, though. Like, they got 2 kills total, so maybe not the words I would use.
I mean, there was 6 kills total in that game,
yeah,
right?
there were a third of them
That's crazy.
that were the Titans. Wow. It's fun how that works. We're waiting for the bans to come through. Heimdall, though, Ro, that was banned by the Titans in the top 3 last time. What is it worth, like, letting that through just to get rid of the Khepri as well as this Oleron?
Yeah, I think so. I think Titans are struggling to find, they don't have enough bans. I'm sure they'd love if they could ban that too, but they're just, there's too many strong picks coming out of Kings, but it looks like Titans are just going through the early game again. They've picked the Yamoja and the Izanami duo pressure, and Kings are, again, trying the same strategy, just to scale into the mid game.
Ban still waiting to come through here for the Kings. Nike was one of the things discussed. Nike is going to get banned out. And Ducky, that's actually a fun question to go for you. Like, if you're playing against Artio, first off, you're probably not in the best ideal position already, but what do you pick to deal with it?
I mean, you're not happy, first and foremost. You probably go Sobek sub, because Guardian against Guardian is probably the best you're going to get. Or you go extremely high pressure and go for the Camozots.
What do you think about, like, the Mulan, for example?
Yeah, Mulan would be a high pressure pick as well.
I'm not sure if Benji plays it, but I know when Finoko played it, it was pretty effective.
It was fun to watch as well. Daji was talked about a little bit earlier, especially with the Yamoja, the Erlang on the other side. And yet it's going to get banned away, so the Titans kind of read that one, again, trying to stifle as much of Twig as they possibly can here. And Ro, I guess, like, next top junglers for Twig, what comes to mind?
I still got the Gilgamesh, still got the Rat, but yeah, I think the Daji would have been really nice for the Yamoja Izanami and good into Erlang as well. So a good ban by them, but I think it'd be totally fine with either of those 2 gods. When he played the Ratatoska, he kind of just played it similar to Humbats, where he just wanted to separate the team fight, threaten the backline so his team could do what they wanted against the front line.
We've done a lot of talking about Xingqian over the weekend, because he got some good buffs, and he's been seen in a lot of these games. I immediately look down. The only games that I see standing out were all losses. There's one maybe from a couple of days ago where he was able to win. But Xingqian, 71% win rate that he has been able to accrue with the buffs recently, especially with Erlang Izanami. It feels like he's going to be dealing with some of these auto-attackers pretty well, Ducky.
Yeah, the 2 frontliners probably just want to zone the backline, and then Twig's going to look for the big ultimate, which is why I was expecting like a Daji or a Humbats. I'd presume he'd go Rat just for the CC immunity against Erlang early game. But I don't know what other junglers he could opt for other than like a Rat Osiris.
Is that all?
Well, it's going to be the Achilles once again. Ducky hit his face. I can't tell. In shame, upset. Ro, you have a little bit of it crossing your face as well. This is not the pick you wanted to see.
It's just not a fun matchup into Artio. Like, I don't know why he keeps going back to it. Look, it's great if they want to threaten the front line, and maybe it is just a comfort pick. We know he's great on Achilles, but it just doesn't seem great in this matchup.
For a very similar composition, the Camelot Kings. Some changes, of course, but their mindset might still be the same.
Largest change has got to be Captain Twig off of the Hun bots now and immediately onto the Ratatoska.
Had to happen, right?
I mean, he called it a budget Hun bots. Not exactly how I describe it. Attempted purple buff invade by Roar does not go right. Netroid confirms himself that one. And now, if the Camelot Kings are able to establish pressure in the long lane, could just look for a return invade, but this time too strong.
I think, look, it needed to happen, right? You had to get Twig off of Hunbats, at least for game number 3. even if all of the kills weren't flowing for Twig, he has been so on point with the Fear No Evils up to this point here today. 2, 3 beads. Felt like every single time that ultimate dropped down were being confirmed. Now, the desk did express some discontent for picking Achilles back into this matchup.
Whoa.
How about this? This would be a great way to start off the game. Captain Twig dashes away. Layers uses his blink. Captain Twig holds on to the beads. But you're already seeing some of that early game Erlang Shen pressure.
And that's exactly what you want to see from Layers. This is a pick that he is very adept on using in the early game. Potentially could look for a little bit more here, but a nice leap from Genetics avoids the stun. And Layer.
The Titans may have only dropped a couple of games in total in the last couple of matches that we've seen them, and now the Camelot Kings have commanding control of this best-of-5 grand finals. And it's an important mental check as well for the Camelot Kings not to let off the gas. Nice double stun from Variety. Heal comes out from Layers in just a moment, but it's a double dunk from Captain Twig. First blood on the line.
Nearly.
And Benji weaves his way on in. The last bit of damage isn't there on a Captain Twig, but job is done. And the Titans get first blood.
Twig tried to use his dart there to get in front of the execute from Benji, but was unsuccessful. They are just waiting for that late game team fight.
You don't
but
say.
Speaking of Paul, he said to me, I don't go the Book of the Dead build because it doesn't deal enough damage. And that might have been the most Paul sentence I'd ever heard.
Sure.
And he does not concern himself with survivability. Paul's survivability comes from his positioning in the team fights. He plays incredibly safe. He's always got at least 2 frontliners between him and the nearest enemy.
And it is good for survivability and Paul's positioning. Been low kill games all across the board so far today. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, first of the game. That's on to Layers as Red Buff gets dropped down here. Watch out, Captain Twig takes the 2-man knockup, and the River's Rebuke on the other end. That's from Aurora, and that'll help his team in escaping unless Genetics can chase this one down. Pin had to be perfect, and it sure is, but Netrioid's rotated in from the duo lane. Ultimate has already connected onto Aurora here, but look at the support from the rest of the Titans. Aurora Riptide's out. Genetics still around the backside. He's buying space. Aurora desperately trying to escape. Is the support just going to get it done? Paul has already used his ultimate, but a nice double stun from Aurora might just save his life.
Now Genetics has to limp his way out of there, but it's left Paul alone. Good damage from Variety, but will not step into the tower. It's time for the disengage.
Oh my goodness, but now Benji is here, but he's going to be on his own if he tries to keep fighting this one. The Titans show up exactly how they need to there for their support. Aurora is so low for so much of that fight, and just not enough damage is there on the back end. But now we've seen, granted it's kind of served to Captain Twig, but now we've seen a couple of those ultimates already from the Ratatosker finding multiple targets with each use, and so we're starting to find some momentum on this pick. And that does bode well for the Camelot Kings moving forward. That said, I think the answer from the Titans there and keeping Aurora alive.
Oh, wow.
Giving your chance around this Pyromancer very good. Early taunt in from Layers. That's caught out onto Genetics, who does not have his ultimate back. Double dash used, and goodbye, says Paul, and the Morgan Le Fay is on board.
It is. The Tartarus Titans can now fall back and try and pull this Pyromancer yet again. Variety hovering nearby, as is Twig. Big Man Team's not far away either.
You have this advantage. You got to secure it now. At this point, you can't let this one get stolen away. One more kill would help Captain Twig. Whirls on around, but ends up going down the drain, and now Paul has got 2 kills. Pyromancer gets dropped by the Tartarus Titans. But you're feeling okay. You get a kill on a Captain Twig, and you're able to slow down this Ratatosker. And this is shades of Game 1, where the Tartarus Titans get a few kills on board. Layers at the forefront of a lot of it, setting up for his team. Paul has found a few of those kills. Yeah, just think of it one game at a time. Of course you know if you're the Titans, you've got to win 3 straight. But when you're in this game right now, your focus has all got to be on closing out the lead that you've built up for yourself. A good chance of doing so. Big Man Tings, yeah, Rada Tahuti, you think that's got some value here for Paul? Forces the Aegis at a BMT. And a lot of damage connecting onto the Tiamat.
Big Man Ting's going to be forced back to base here, so this could open up another opportunity for the Tartarus Titans to look towards the Pyromancer yet again, or just Variety.
River's Rebuke sends Variety back towards the left, and goodbye Artio. Benji now on the board for the second time this game. You finally got some kills rolling in the solo lane. Paul has got some there as well. Captain Twig doesn't have much to say about this one. Doesn't look like Genetics will rotate over either. And in Game 1, even when the Titans had this kill lead, it felt like the Kings were able to lock down the neutral objectives for themselves. That's something now the Tartarus Titans have been able to remedy, grabbing a Pyro.
Yeah, it's been great play from Benji out of the solo lane as well. A lot of these kills coming from the execute on the tail end of these fights. But the Camelot Kings, they love their macro play. Can they sneak away another Gold Fury?
That's got to just be a win, right? I mean, you do lose Variety and the Pyromancer, but Gold Fury for Pyro. That's something the Camelot Kings happy to take for themselves.
I think the Tartarus Titans have got themselves a significant enough lead where they can at least try and strip away some of these tier 1 towers. It doesn't have to be a full-on commitment, but you can at least check and see whether or not the Camelot Kings are going to respond.
How about this? Can they do this? Can they do the Fire Giant?
It's kind of crazy.
They think that they can. Well, where's Netroid? He was over on the left side of the map. He's rotating in around the back of this fight. Variety, he's used his Phantom already, and he is low, and Benji calls him on it. But look out on the backside of this fight.
What?
Oh, Layers survives in Cyclone Spin. He's able to turn around to kill. Finally, Netroid deals the last bit of damage. It's a blink through Benji and Cyclone Spin from Genetics. Big Man Tings, that's Book of the Dead. Buys him a little bit of time here in the mid lane, but the chase goes on. And a nice knockup from Genetics. Delays out the re-engage in mid, but this Achilles starting to run wild. And that's a good trade for the Tartarus Titans, 2 for 1.
Yeah, Variety not nearly as tanky as it was last game. Once he finishes up that Spirit Robe, he might be able to survive those engagements, but the Tartarus Titans able to shut him down before that defense comes online fully. And it seems like that's all the Titans wanted. They have Cyclone Spin reset to the opposite side of the map. He's going to go farm up.
Great if you want to keep up with those builds as well. Has been able to maintain item slot parity with Cyclone Spin, but Cyclone Spin's had enough gold to upgrade that starter item, so a decent little spike here should a fight break out around the FG.
Cyclone Spin's survivability just took a major leap now with that Death's Embrace pickup. Netroid can't 1v1 him. He doesn't even want to take trades with him in the lane if that is the plan, just leaving the Hunters on the opposite side of the map, because one of them has so much more sustain than the other. The Tartarus Titans also have got sustain built into the draft thanks to Aurora on this Yemoja.
Do you want to see the Titans force this?
I do. I think they could go ahead and pull it. They don't need to coin toss it. They don't even need to drop it low. They could just elongate the fight, take a little bit of damage, take some HP from the Kings, back up, heal, and keep doing that.
Even if Cyclone Spin is the one tanking it, apparently his health bar is not going to drop all that low. And he might just be able to do this one on his own.
He can.
We'll see. Camelot Kings, they are close by, but Cyclone Spin and Aurora, they're the only two on the Fire Giant. Genetics knocked up and knocked to the side. The Fire Giant has been dropped. Body block. That one's good from Netroid, but out of the Bifrost he goes, and that is enough space for the Tartarus Titans to grab themselves the FG. Benji gets the kill onto Genetics nonetheless, and now the Camelot Kings running for the hills.
Netroid and Captain Twig nowhere to be seen, so it's Variety left alone here. He's going to go into the body bag alone as well.
And it looks like maybe the victory here in the Phase 3 finals is going to have to wait one more game for the Camelot Kings unless the Titans can pull some magic out. The Camelot Kings rather can pull some magic out. The Titans have gotten themselves a commanding lead here. Maybe one of the first Fire Giants of the set so far.
For it.
And they are looking towards the Tartarus Titans. They've got to win 3 straight. Starting it with a win here is definitely the best place, the only place for the Tartarus Titans to start. The Camelot Kings back and forth though. Captain Twig, he's found a double stun, and there's good re-engage on the backside of this fight. The Camelot Kings not giving up without a little bit of damage connecting in. Twig does not have his ultimate. Otherwise, you might see this Ratatosker dunking in.
There's no way for the Camelot Kings to close this gap. Once Aurora gets some Omi, he can just riptide his whole team out of there. As well as the Tartarus Titans are kind of healthy. They have Fire Giant, and it's just Genetics right there. The Camelot Kings may have stepped too far forward.
And they have. Can you catch out? I doubt. Captain Twig here on his run away. So now, I mean, you're within reach, right? You're pushing us onto a game 4 here. Damage into his build, and he's got it. Now Mantle of Discord for a little extra survivability. You buy yourself that leisure when you build the way Paul has up to this point. So we're turning our eyes towards the left side Phoenix here. And for the Tartarus Titans, you're going to have fire minions pushing down right. And so a decent scenario, you might not split push your actual players on your team if you're the Titans, but you will have pressure pushing in right here eventually nonetheless.
You will. So who's going to be the first one in? Benji has got the tornado on him, so maybe waiting for his opportunity to blink forward. Keep your eyes on Captain Twig, man. That ultimate is going to spell the go for the Camelot Kings.
Genetics whittled down just a little bit. He is level 16. Everyone else outside of Aurora level 20, and Aurora's level 18 for that matter. Benji walks forward. Decent damage on Variety. That's a taunt in from Layers. Tornado ticking down some damage from Big Man Tings. He will be there for Layers on the other end, but Variety left much worse for wear. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. That'll pick up Aurora. Into the back line he goes, but the kill is not followed. Aurora walking out of the back of this fight, and the Camelot Kings, they nearly get one, but Aurora lives on.
That would have been massive for the Kings, but instead now Aurora just going to be healing his way back up. And you're right, the Titan has got some company in the room. Luckily, Variety nearby should be able to put up a little bit of a defense, and the Tartarus Titans have been stopped on their push. Only 2 seconds left on Fire Giant.
Still the one in the driver's seat.
It is a massively uphill battle for the Camelot Kings. Somebody's got to deal with Paul. That's number one on the to-do list for the Camelot Kings if they want to win out on these team fights. Or they could try and continue to do what they have been, which is taking the elongated fight. The Tartarus Titans benefit from that, though, just by nature of having Yamoja. So if you're able to deal with Paul, that opens up the door to close gap on a Cyclone spin.
They're doing it. They're doing it quick. Tartarus Titans on the Fire Giant. Camelot Kings close by. They don't have the time. Camelot Kings just not in range. Maybe you can find a kill elsewhere on the map. But Benji, he is happy to be thrown into the awaiting grasp of the Camelot Kings. Netdruid has exited stage left as Captain Twig and Variety locked in place by Layers over here on the right. It is a disengage from the Camelot Kings, but Variety doesn't have the legs. He will be the first casualty in this fight. And now the defense crippled for the Camelot Kings.
Paul's straight up frontlining. He's run him down. Paul's leading the charge. Somebody has to look at this guy. The first bit of damage Paul has taken in that entire team fight was from a Phoenix shot.
No Book of the Dead, no problem. Captain Twig uses his ult just to clear out some waves here on the backside of this fight. And immediately over to the mid lane go the Tartarus Titans. No margin for error if you're the Camelot Kings. One more kill even could end this game, send us on to a game 4. But you're playing with house money if you're the Camelot Kings. You need to win one of the next 3 if you're counting this game. The Tartarus Titans got to win 3 straight. And they've given themselves a great shot of winning this first one. Netrioid, he has been CC'd, but he will not be killed. Out of the Bifrost, he goes back to the fountain to heal on up.
Now, can the Camelot Kings maintain their last remaining Phoenix? The Tartarus Titans are slowly working their way a swath across the map. Cyclone Spin unchecked, drops the Phoenix to 50%.
Genetics is in the back. Cyclone Spin happy to use the beads for that because Genetics kept right where he is, stunned in place, and he will die where he stands. Cyclone Spin has found the second. And now the Tartarus Titans with 2 kills on the board, 1 Phoenix left standing. They smell blood in the water. They smell a game 4, but it is up to Netrioid, Big Man, Tings, and Variety to keep this game alive. You've got plenty of damage. You've got a little tankiness. There is still hope for the Camelot Kings to keep things in the balance here. That's a nice dark portal, though, from Cyclone Spin on the re-engage. Variety being melted through, but he is buying a lot of space for the Titan, but it is not nearly enough. The Tartarus Titans win game 3 and send us to game 4.
And it could.
Really,
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, no, I remember exactly like that. Hopefully we don't have the VOD. But yeah, the Achilles really did work in the early game and the mid game team fights with that execute.
It definitely feels like, and this was the adjustment that was made by the Titans, they realistically controlled Twig a little bit more, and this Ratatosker didn't get to have anywhere near the hands-on, I want to say, like, style that Twig got in the late games, the last 2 games. Meanwhile, Paul and Layers, they kind of got to do anything they wanted, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think not having the Humbats was really the difference maker. We didn't see Twig like I thought he would be, up in the air, kind of intimidating the backline and saving his front line in that regard. So without the Humbats ult to really split the team fight up, his front line was at much bigger risk to this Achilles. And yes, I admit we were wrong about the Achilles. It was very good that they got their first blood onto the RTO, actually make that matchup bearable. And then, yeah, again, not having the threat on the backline was able to actually execute this RTO and even threaten Genetics as well.
That's what the phrase is, right? 3rd time's the charm. If as long as you slam Achilles into RTO, eventually something is bound to go right for you. And the Titans proved that one here. A very solid, what was that, 2 6.0 KDAs there, I think, for Paul and for Layers. 2-1 and 8 and 2-0 and 8. There for the 2 of them. So they are absolutely rocking it through that. 2-0 and 4 there for Cyclone Spin. Very successful. But the thing I want to highlight is actually on the next screen. It is the healing numbers that came out of Aurora. Of course, on the previous screen, you got to see it. Aurora, 14.5k. And when you looked at the Kings builds, Ducky, there wasn't a whole lot of a lot of gold he could have spent elsewhere. Kings this time around will be first pick. They still lead 2-1, so this is still the only game they need if they're going to be able to finalize it. The Titans have to win this and one more in order to get themselves the win. The huge chunk of change, the cash prize that you get if you're first, and of course, the selection of which side of the bracket you're on at Worlds, so you can choose which quarterfinal that you will be receiving the winner from. As of now, Aphrodite, Odin, banned out, very similar, alongside the Hell, exact same bands we had last time from the Kings. Olarun, it is Hunbats, last time it was Khepri, this time it's Erlong Shin for the Kings. Ro, you're nodding.
Yeah, really important to keep Twig off these utility gods that you can help in these late game team fights with. I think it was important that they took the Erlang Shen first pick last game and took away the Humbats. In this game, they have to take them both away because Kings were smart and took the first pick option after they lost. But that means they get the Tiamat, which, you know, they didn't win with last game, but they've had a very good tournament on so far.
That's now, yeah, you know what? All my 100% win rates, I'd have to go through and actually do math now to figure out the exact numbers. Probably high 80s, something like that. Either way, Tiamat was locked in there. Khepri is the answer on the other side here for the Titans. Alongside that's the Izanami. And you start off with your dual lane pretty early. The Kings now know what to expect out of that, but Ducky, it feels pretty confident.
Yeah, I think the Kings will probably go Yamoja Haim here, just to be safe. Then they have a safe dual lane, they have the healing for late game. And they've had the Khepri taken away, so I think it'd be a good shout to pick the Yamoja up. I doubt they'll pick the jungler this early. There's not really anything they could opt for that would be incredible into that dual lane. So I'd like to see them pick theirs.
And you know, I'm blanking on this. The last week of group stages, and actually I think even the first week, Geb was like a huge thing to pick up. Of course, Yamoja's really good. Khepri has been very good. We've seen Ganesh, we've seen Xing Chen. But is there any reason, any world to go to Geb here if it's possible?
I just think Yamoja's kind of
just better.
Yeah. The sustain we saw from Aurora last game was just like insane, but that was also against a team like a Ratatoska that can't apply that anti-heal very well. You're always going to get value out of the Geb shield, but he just goes with the Fafnir. Doesn't want the top two supports, and this is where I think Kings were kind of shining, right? When the other teams against them were banning the Geb and the Yamoja, Genetics doesn't care. He's like, whatever, I just want to play the Fafnir or the Khepri anyway. So he's going to go that route even though both are open.
Well, it is Fafnir. Ducky reacted in a much more surprised. Like, Ro, you took that very calmly on the chin. Like, yeah, you know what? It makes sense. Ducky, you seemed a little more surprised by it.
Yeah, no, I definitely thought they were going to go Yamoja. I don't know why it looked in the Faf. I suppose they won was the first game or second game with the Fafnir? It was the first, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they were winning yesterday with it too. So it's back to a comfort pick, and I guess that's what you want in a best of 5. And they know it works for them, and that it fits their style of just being able to slow things down and burn objectives. Like if that last game, for example, you know, Titans had the early pressure, but it was only really like a 2k lead at 20 minutes. You know, there were periods of time where Kings could have pulled the objective, and with the Fafnir, they actually have that DPS now. And I believe they've run this trio before of the Tiamat, Artio, and Fafnir as well. So and had success with it as well.
Well, Paul goes over to the Morrigan pick, which has been very kind to him throughout the year, and is one of the top 5 most banned gods against the Titans, so it makes sense that he is happy to be able to scoop that one up. Achilles actually gets banned this time, despite the fact that I think each time we've said it's maybe not the best matchup into the RDO. After last game's performance, it makes sense to control that a little more.
I think Benji proved us wrong and Kings wrong.
Yeah. I'd like to see them lock in Cthulhu here, if they're going to go anything. Cthulhu, Khepri, Morrigan, I would not want to play against that. So I think the Titans would opt for that. Benji's had a strong Cthulhu as well in the season, so...
It does relate a bit back to the Leviathan set as well, because they were running the Cthulhu into the Fafnir, which can be pretty dangerous. If Netroid starts to get something on that's like high DPS with the Fafnir, you might be able to melt through at least one Cthulhu, but maybe not 2.
We'll see what they opt for here. Nike. Completely forgot about her. She hasn't made it through a lot of these bans in the last few games, and she gets locked in here. Lots of shielding, lots of survivability. With the dodgy Heimdall, that was banned out by the Titans. Just to catch you up, Kamazot's Achilles was over there on the Kings. Still need a jungle pick and a hunter over on the side of the Kings. But this Nike comes through, and, you know, Ducky, we've seen a lot of ridiculous solo lane Nike plays throughout this year. There's still some conversation. I guess she's been in the jungle a couple of times, but this definitely feels like it should be Benji's hands.
Yeah, I completely forgot that character was open. I did not see that on the bans. But Nike's great. I think Kings need to have a ADC with CC, like Huyi or something like that, just to get through the Nike too. Otherwise, they're going to have trouble on the backline with 2 of them running about.
Yeah, I think Nike was a good pick because I think they would have been able to deal with the Cthulhu with any kind of DPS hunter and the Fafnir on top of that, but dealing with a Nike, possibly 2, and then a Khepri on top of that, I think they're going to have a lot of struggles getting through this front line if they go, well, Netroid will have a lot of struggles, but they'll still have the high objective DPS, they just won't have the high objective DPS and frontline DPS that they had in the other set.
Well, we were talking about Gilgamesh last set, just because we hadn't seen him, or not last set, last game, we hadn't seen him much at all. I'll admit, color me surprised, we're seeing him right here, right now. Ro, you were the one who had brought him up. What is it about his
It's what I wanted from Twig last game. I think it's more in line with the Erlang and the Humbats than what Ratatoska was, so I think it fits their style much better. It does give a pretty strong transformation to the Morrigan, so that's scary as well, but she'll probably just end up choosing the Nike.
Oh, this on her lock in there for specifically Netroid. I'll leave this one for Myth when they get into the cast, but I think Netroid has been pretty successful in every 1v1 thing we've had on Mondays. Myth's giving me a very unsure look. We'd have to go back. Hey, go to youtube.com/SmitePro. Watch the 1v1s. Not right now, obviously. Do it a little bit later. And figure out, for me, if Netroid has been as successful in those on her 1v1s that we've seen between all of the pros that we've been able to bring into studio. A Raijin Hover immediately pivoted over to a Susanoo lock-in here, something that we've gotten a little more used to seeing, but this is going to be the Layers pick. It feels like tankiness and survivability kind of played through Tiamat on her on one side, and then Layers Paul hyper carry on the other
Get
side.
active early and hopefully are able to roll that later in.
Yeah, Gilgamesh, one of the stronger early game junglers on her. One of the most prolific lane bullies in the Hunter role. I think the Camelot Kings have brought themselves a very good draft to try and run away with it early. And they've also got good potential towards neutral objectives throughout, thanks to this Fafnir out of support. My only concern, my singular concern,
Okay.
is that the Camelot Kings have not really played this early game style of draft since yesterday. They've had a good 3-game set of trying to go late so far, so that could come back to bite them. Whereas the Tartarus Titans, they love going late. That's been their strategy like throughout the entirety of the year, barring the last 3 games. So, as Ro so eloquently put, a complete flip from what we've seen so far in this set.
Do you feel like some of that then lays at the feet of Captain Twig, who has been very effective on the Hun Bats, was largely ineffective outside of a little scrapping here and there on the Ratatoskr, now finds himself playing Gilgamesh here in game number 4. Do you feel like there's some extra pressure on Twig then to start snowballing things early?
I think there is pressure on him to get involved, or maybe just right here, but instead it is a disengage. Doesn't have the drop kick just yet, so does not love his odds in the fight. Big Man Tings, though, losing the beads, that's massive.
That's Layers blinking over, taking the beads away from BMT, so small early win for the Tartarus Titans, especially if you're able to make a return there towards the mid lane.
I like Big Man Tings in the 1v1 with Book of the Dead up against the Morgan. I think the Morgan, or Paul specifically, is going to have to shift his target.
Oh, could be first blood here. Netroid jumps away, had to use the beads, holds on to his ultimate. Would have also provided CC immunity there. Watch out, Layers. Blinks, Typhoon!
Oh, no.
My goodness, from range! And Netroid did not see it coming. Layers sends the ultimate right down Main Street, and Netroid takes a seat.
So simple. My man did it blind over the wall. Maybe the minion was in range to give him the vision that he needed, but Layers, exactly where his team needs him to pick up first blood for his squad. And if the Camelot Kings were trying to leverage early game advantage on her as one of your strongest early game gods, you may have missed out on a little bit of that opportunity as Cyclone Spin now pulls an entire level ahead.
It's a good combo there as well to set up Aurora and Cyclone Spin, just combine all their CC. Here's a transformation, Paul, into the Nike. This is very close to a solo kill. This will happen, and it's going to be Layers grabbing his second of the game. That one helped out in large part due to Paul. And that Morgan finding a lot of damage on the Big Man Tings. A fantastic start to game number 4 for the Tartarus Titans. They'll pull 1.5k gold and 2 kills in the lead. And if both of them are on that Susanoo. Susanoo, 1.5, 2 levels ahead over Captain Twig. Fantastic start, fantastic spot for Layers to be in.
And he's gone for a much more aggressive build than Captain Twig. So even though Twig probably wins the 1v1 up against Layers, I don't think Layers is taking that 1v1 too often. So it's about relative value in the fight. Layers has got it.
Do you have enough damage here is the question. Benji takes a lot. Drop kick from Twig. Good at providing a little bit extra. It's a 4 versus 3. Typhoon out. Double knock up, double pull in. Layers playing it perfectly. He'll dash away. Paul has gotten the kill on the Captain Twig, but it's a re-engage from Benji. Finds a knockup. Variety and Genetics, they are locked in place. They have done enough, though, to delay out this fight. Big Man Tings now rotating in, jumping in, as a matter of fact. And not enough damage from the Kings to feel confident on the full re-engagement. Cyclone Spin is rotated over. Dark Portal, oh, it's perfect, and Benji has got the double knockup. It's a disastrous fight in the jungle for the Camelot Kings, and the Titans off to a 5-0 start.
I just don't understand the target selection from the Camelot Kings. Going on to initially Benji, dropkick used on him. That's one of your most consistent CC tools. And then the leaps in afterward. Layers finds a 3-man knockup for...
And Layers has felt strong as well at 203.
And Cyclone just leveraging the pressure that Izanami brings in lane. He clears the waves immediately, like 4 auto attacks, hits the entire wave. You clear it out, then you can immediately rotate out. And that's exactly what he's done.
Oh no, Captain Twig. We'll walk away from a little bit of this fight. Rend on the other end from Benji might be there, and it sure is. And Captain Twig does fall prey to the engage in the jungle, but Benji wants more. Sentinel of Zeus is down in Variety. is slowed to all hell. A roar finds the root on the other end. Abduct to go, please, and layers. Assists in another. Benji's got the double. And this game, Myth, is already starting to spiral. This is the fastest paced game we've seen. And Tartarus Titans got it all.
Could the Titans have just been doing this the entire time? Was this in the cards? Now looking towards the Pyromancer, going to push their lead even further. The Camelot Kings have got good threat of burn around objectives, but they don't have enough teammates alive to leverage it. So Gold Fury not at risk here. Tartarus Titans going to take this one with very low cost to themselves.
Tartarus Titans. But you're hoping that you can scale up if you're the Camelot Kings. But we've already described concern around the Titans and maybe their better draft moving into the late game. Gold Fury burning quickly here. Genetics might find a hammer, might find the ability to steal this one away. Netrioid awaiting around to the corner as well. Gold Fury reset, that feels bad. But great timing from the Tartarus Titans, who will grab the Gold Fury. And Genetics will have to jump out.
Genetics will, but he's got Benji on his heels. Should be able to walk out after all of that. But the Tartarus Titans, they don't need to leave. They can take out this tier 1.
Oh man, Netroid, he doesn't have ultimate. He's got beads and he's got leap. But Typhoon will find everything but the knockup. So Netroid will leave, but Genetics will die. And so now the duo lane has its third death of the game, and the Titans are absolutely rolling. 4-0. Nike, you're not going to do much there other than harass. So the Camelot Kings maybe still feeling, obviously the stat stick on Shogun still feels all right as well, but Kings maybe still itemizing towards that game plan. That's big damage from big man Tings. So there is still some scale potential here. Got Book of the Dead online, fully stacked Book of Thoth. Soul Reaver is there for some burst damage. You're seeing a little light, Myth, at the end of the tunnel, but maybe feels like the next grouping for the Tartarus Titans could seal the deal.
It's going to take some significant individual plays from the Camelot Kings. If Netroid solo Cyclone Spin, that'd be pretty good for him.
2 levels down?
Yeah, 2 levels down. Not like. Are we throwing life rafts or not, Dave? You gotta give me a chance.
Yeah, okay. I said like a floaty, like a life ring.
Okay.
You're throwing an inflatable yacht out there. You're throwing a lifeboat out to the Camelot Kings here. Typhoon takes variety for a little bit of damage. Kings able to disengage from this fight. So there's a small win.
Nice.
The dark portals for Cyclone Spin have been on point, and this one is as well. Transformation from Paul into the Nike. Massive knockup from Benji. And this fight is horrific yet again for the Camelot Kings, as if you expect anything else. 3-man knockup on the re-engage. Stun from Paul forces the Aegis. Looks like the clone maybe baited out the ultimate there. Paul re-engages, has Scarab's blessing, and he'll get the kill to go.
Okay, Life Raft's got some holes in it now, Dave. That thing is holding water.
Good thing we got a backup Life Raft in the Life Raft.
Good lord. Tartarus Titans pull out the Fire Giant. It's burning pretty quickly, but the Camelot Kings are nearby. They might be able to slow this one down.
Yeah, are the Kings nearby, or is like Variety close and he's going to die anyway? Re-engage from Twig. A chance for the first kill of the game goes by the wayside, and the Titans 13-0 up, 17 and a half minutes into game number 4. Genetics respawns. Yeah, high odds plays, I don't know, man. You throw layers onto a strong pick in the 308 now, Susano. And Myth, we're looking real close to a game 5 if the rest of the Titans keep playing the way that they are.
Gotta completely agree. Genetics in some significant trouble. Yeah,
I mean, we're just farming at this point, right?
Yeah.
Dark Portal. Oh, yeah, it's a nice transformation.
Is it?
No. Well, yes. Bought a little bit of time.
Yeah,
now the Fire
cool.
Giant's going to be a little bit slower to go down. There is a Fury on the left. Maybe that's where the Camelot Kings find some safety. Fire Giant picked up by the Tartarus Titans. And you have to imagine that's when this game starts to enter its final stages. Tier 2 towers left on the map with a fully Fire Gianted up Tartarus Titans. Myth, I don't think the defense of the Camelot Kings matters much here, regardless of how good it might look. You are so far behind here in this game. 4 levels in solo, 3 out of the jungle, 1 in mid, 10,000 gold, 15,000 XP, 3 in hunter, 2 in support. This game is over. This game is over, and we're moving on to a game 5.
Is that the end call immediately?
We're getting close to it, Myth. We're getting real close. One more siege. You got a full 3.5 minutes on this fight. Then you got one less Phoenix to worry about.
You sure do. The Tartarus Titans are lackadaisically destroying their opposition systemically, like shut down. People are starting to get in their own head. Oh man, we had such a large lead. How do we start to throw it away? We lost 2 straight. It wasn't even close. Game 4 took less time than any one singular game, even half of a singular game.
Game 2 required a backdoor.
Yeah, game 2 took us a backdoor. We're out here fighting tooth and nail. The Tartarus Titans, they're not fighting tooth and nail.
Feels like we're one fight away from a Game 5 here in the Phase 3 Grand Finals, and a lot on the line. Camelot Kings will not go down without a fight, but that fight is fleeting. Captain Twig, Variety,
Good
deleted.
Lord.
Layers is on a rampage. Typhoon later just one-tapped Netrioid on the back of this fight. Layers goes in with 2 kills in his back pocket here in this engagement. This game is over, and a Game 5 looms large.
That was the longest end I've ever seen, in that I think it was over at the 6-minute mark, and the Tartarus Titans took another 15 to do it themselves. Game 5 coming up.
And Nike, I forgot that was in the game until they locked it in.
They locked it in, and all of us were like, oh, yeah, there's someone who's been banned for a good reason.
They had the opportunity as well to ban it, but they didn't take it. I think they'd change their mind if they could go back again, but I think the main point that I wanted to make was I think Titans just proved that the Kings can't play their style. Like, Kings can't play the Titan style, right? Kings opted to try to fight them in the early game, draft for the early game, and beat them at their own game, showing that they can adapt to any kind of thing and do it best. But Titans are kind of the Kings, no pun intended, of that meta. So I think we shift back. If I'm the Kings, we shift back to this slower, mitigate what's happening in the early game, get back to the mid game, and pick a strong late game 5v5 team comp. But the struggle with that is, how do we do it without the Humbats?
Yeah, it's been the top ban alongside like the things Erlang Shen, Olarun from the Titans here. Meanwhile, you can watch these. Yeah, Variety very non-surprised, I guess, with the way things are going. Relaxed, though. That's kind of the atmosphere I think I was getting from them when they were kind of waiting. They were actually in the break room while I walked through. So they're not out of it just yet, which is good because they still have a whole game to play. But you can definitely feel more energy right now coming off of the Titans. And they feel good because of it. I mean, this Susanoo was 5-0-9. We had mentioned maybe not getting too aggressive early on. Of course, then he immediately goes and gets first blood. But still, really good performance from him and Paul. We walked out after the desk about how the one decision you would have changed was not pick on her specifically into Nike. Like how that just did not feel that great.
Yeah, I don't know. They must just like it for the lane or something, but you're really going to struggle going into any, even, I mean, your win period is like, okay, you win at level 5. That's about it. And then when Nike's there, now you lose. That's not a good feeling in an SPL game as well. If you're doing that in scrims or in your ranked games at home, it's much, much different because you can play the early game and these rotations aren't coming out in full force as strong in the early game. But I don't think you're going to get much from it on her in this meta or in SPL, like in its current state right now.
Well, it has been specifically healers and Odin also mentioned for the Kings that have been their bans. Odin has been their third for most of these. We'll see if they change that. Erlang Shen, Hunbats immediately targeting exactly what they need to, and that is Twig on the other side of the Kings. The Kings. I was going to say the Genetics, and I was like, that's not the name of their team. Genetics, who was on screen, will opt for it, and I think, Ducky, you had called for this, Ro, you had wanted this as well. A Morgan ban taking place of the Odin.
Yeah, I feel like that was necessary. They're probably going to pick Tiamat or Artio here. They've seemed to like it a lot, even when everything else is up, like the Emoja and whatnot. But they'll probably opt for the Tiamat. The Morrigan, I think, was a big issue. Nike's open again, but thankfully there won't be 2 of them. So yeah, I think that's a good ban by them.
Now here's something, and Ro, I kind of want your thoughts on this. With Odin, you know, he's been banned out by the Kings every single game this set. In my mind, that would usually translate to, okay, we should lock him in.
Why do they I don't think Variety's playing that god at all. I think he can play that style, no problem, but it just doesn't seem that they want it at all. I think they opt for the Izanami. They think it's a problem. They did struggle, you know, with their god pool, I guess, in the Hunter role last game with ending up on the Unher, so get the good Hunter pick straight away. I mean, the Heimdall will still open as well, but it looks like they want to go the pressure route, or at least not give up too much pressure this time.
If we're looking at it, that was what, game 2, I believe the Kings got it. They won with it then. So they go back to this Izanami. Nike plus Tiamat. Seems like a very frustrating immediately to lock in if you are the Kings. But still manageable, right? Like Nike this early, does she have enough counter picks, Ducky, that you can really work your way around this?
You mean in lane?
Well, I guess just in general.
No, she's just farming, then she's showing up and your carriers are going to cry.
So the answer to no was both no.
I mean, Harry's either going to go Odin, Artio, and I think that's it. I don't think
I'd
he'd
like
opt
to
for
see him
anything
on the
else.
Achilles, but it's not really his style, but I'd like to see him on his Achilles because Izanami can silence the Nike and they can actually kill a frontliner, but not without an Achilles, in my opinion. And at least they haven't got two of them to deal with, like Ducky said before, because of the Morrigan ban. But I think this could be a switch up into an Achilles. Otherwise, he just goes for the R2 in, what, the 5th game, I think, in a row?
Yeah. I mean,
that is rough.
if you want to, like, look, you've got 2 successes, 2 losses on it, right? So you have to break the streak one way or another, either 3 losses or 3 wins. We'll see what they do decide to try out here. They're burning through their bank time. But the Tiamat as well has been a very solid pick. And for Paul specifically, didn't win them a game earlier. But again, very, very high success rate for them. You do get the Emoja with the lock-in for the Kings. Alongside that's the Ratatosker. It feels like a very Kings-centric top 3. I mean, well, Emoja's anybody as of right now. But the Ratatosker, the Izanami definitely fit their team really well.
Yeah, I think the Ratatosker just kind of shows Twig is scraping the bottom of the barrel for his jungle picks right now. Yeah. He's not really expanded much. He hasn't had a big god pool this playoffs, despite the amount of games that they've played. And I think the Ratatosker, when we saw it, was pretty disappointing. I can't remember how it went, I think in the Scarab set, but it's not on the level of the Humbats or the Erlang that are both banned away. I thought I would like the Gilgamesh more, but that obviously didn't go very well. So he's gone back to the Ratatosker, but there hasn't been the results that I want to see from it. It would be so much better if he was on the Erlang or the Humbats, and Titans would just continue to take it away from them, which is really smart.
If I'm looking at this right, I don't think this Ratatosker's won a game for them.
I actually think the Rat's going to go solo.
That's a good point.
Oh, so giving it over to Variety.
Yeah, I do not think Twig will play that again after that one game.
Makes sense. And that's actually the question that, you know, we've talked a lot about Daji, although with Camazot's there, maybe not necessarily up at the top, but like a lot of these like extraneous still fit Twig, but, you know, not necessarily bad junglers, and the meta have been banned off. And so he's been, like you had said, Rose, kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
What do you do when you know you're going up against a Camazot's, which admittedly has also been losing almost every single game he's played?
Yeah, but again, if they put the Ratatosker in the solo lane, then that's one more pick essentially taken away from Captain Twig. So at that point, all he has left is the Gilgamesh, which didn't go well, and I doubt they're going to pick it again after a game like that. Not to say it was the Gilgamesh's fault or anything like that, or Twig's fault for that matter, but you know, you never want to play a god again where you just didn't get any kills on your whole entire team. So I think he might have to take it unless he's got something to like pull out of the pocket and prove us all wrong.
That's what you're hoping right now, I think, if you're a Kings fan, especially after the way the last game went. The Titans with an overwhelming amount of control. Olorun, completely blanked out of my mind, did make it through a majority of these picks, and even the top 6 in bans, which he hasn't done for the last few games. But he does finally get banned out here by the Kings. Chang'e gets banned out, something that we've seen only a couple teams really pull out. Ducky, your team's one of them. What does she bring to the table, and would she have fit well with the Kings draft?
I mean, she's a lot of pressure in mid lane. It's obviously not worked out well for us, otherwise I'd be in the booth. But it's definitely a good thing.
I feel bad that I asked it now.
No, it's all good, man. Yeah, she's a strong pick in mid lane if you're going to play around that for a lot of pressure. However, I think Kings are going to go Osiris jungle. It's what I want to see, because they have a lot of pressure in duo. If Rat goes solo, he should be popping off there. So I'd like to see them just change their playstyle a bit and just play aggressive.
Twig does have a reputation of picking Osiris in important tournaments, so we'll see if he picks that again.
As long as we don't see a Poseidon, since it's a Game 5 finals, right? Everything's fine as long as that pick avoids us. We already got our Poseidon Game 5, and the Kings were able to beat it then. Of course, it wouldn't be their sets this weekend if they didn't take us 15 full games for all of those guys, so it's not necessarily unfamiliar territory. Maybe not happy that they had to get here, especially losing 2 in a row. Xing Shen gets locked in for the Titans to go over into the duo lane. Still waiting, presumably, for their Hunter, unless they're doing some really wild shenanigans, which I doubt, for their last lock-in. That's not something you see often, is a last-pick Hunter.
No, but, I mean, you're talking about shenanigans. We have seen... Now I don't know if I'm leaking scrims or not. I guess I'll find out on Twitter later. We have seen Camazot's ADC before, so...
Yeah. And admittedly, Cyclonesman is the one who's playing all of these assassins in the carry role.
Exactly right.
So
yep.
It is not necessarily outlandish to think about the Titans specifically doing something like that. Susano gets locked in here. Now, this was a really good pick on the other side for layers. I'm going to admit, Ducky, I don't have much of a... I think we've seen Kings play it, like specifically Twig play it like twice, maybe? And they haven't been stellar games.
No, I think Susano's a decent matchup into Camelot, so I could be wrong. I don't play jungle, but I'd like to see Twig play this. He didn't have a good showing on Rat, so I'm glad it went to Harry.
And Variety back to the Ratatosker, and Captain Twig for the first time this set and the first time in a while finds himself on the Susano.
It's a volatile draft for the Camelot Kings. The only lane that I think is incredibly consistent is the duo lane. Genetics and Netrioid together should be able to establish pressure. And when I say should be, I'm going to say will. They will establish pressure in the long lane just by nature of being Yamoja and Izanami. There's no way Charybdis and Jingxian can match up, barring a wild kill. So elsewhere is where you got to keep your eyes on. I think, if anything, Variety's got a lot to prove on this Ratatosker out of the Soul lane, especially up against a god like Nike. Keep your eyes on him.
Talk to me about jungle dynamic here this game, If. It feels like we haven't had this scrappy, both wanting to assassinate 1v1 style matchup yet, where maybe Twig's been on more setup, Layers has been on more setup. Layers has usually been on the Camazot, so it's usually been Twig. Feels like this time we do have the ability for maybe some of those late game 1v1s that could make a big difference in some of those later game objective dances. Your consolation prize for being banned out a little bit is Paul on Tiamat. Congrats. Variety maybe receiving some pressure from Layers early in this game. Instead, it's a look towards the blue buff. We'll be back off cooldown. Variety's just going to take away some of those back camps there. So Paul on Tiamat versus Big Man Tings on this Scylla. Yet again, another important look at some of that objective secure that's worked for the Camelot Kings so far. Remember, Dark Portal plus I'm a Monster. Something we've seen already. Captain Twig engaging onto Paul here, who will hold on to the beads. We're already seeing some decent pressure from the Kings here on left.
Yeah, Paul, tanky enough to deal with just about everything that Captain Twig is tossing out here. Not much risk of death, barring Big Man Tings being able to work his way all the way forward, but just not very likely.
2v2 around this purple buff, and that's one that Cyclone Spin looks like he's able to drop down. Captain Twig has got to leave, but he's got no mana. He's already used all of his escape. Netrioid is here, though. He'll make it a 2 versus 3. That is good cleave damage from Cyclone Spin on the back end. The back is secured by Captain Twig. He just watched his duo lane scrap it out. Now Netrioid left to the Wolves. Maybe you're going to get the root here if you're Aurora. Just enough damage, or not enough damage, rather, from Cyclone Spin. Does have Layers close by. That's a full lane chase down. Now kind of makes the health battle flip just a little bit. Still a pot for Netrioid. We'll keep him nice and topped out. And you get that ultimate, especially with Benji already having that Blackthorn completed. And Variety just a bit away from completing the Acorn. Probably difficult outside of perfect lockdown to grab that kill. There already a health disparity here in the solo lane, and Benji gonna try to take advantage of it. Drops the blue buff, and Variety has got to watch it go. Sentinel of Zeus down. Variety has his ultimate. Benji doesn't have enough damage. And so at least it's a blue buff secure by Benji, and already putting pressure on this Ratatosker. And Variety, and really the worrying trend right now is what could be a growing gap here in solo lane. 2 levels. But other than that, Variety is also now second to last on the net worth charts, whereas Benji is top of the net worth charts. You are about 5-6 minutes into the game, and there's already about a 700 gold difference for Benji here in this solo lane. And Benji's on a pick that wants to do this. Variety doesn't have his ultimate. Layers does, and there is first blood 6 minutes in to the Tartarus Titans.
Captain Twig hovering nearby. Layers low HP, but healing up inside of his own
why not?
pool. Captain Twig, I'm not sure you want to take this fight, bud.
I'm not sure what Twig can do. He's got his ultimate to pull in
Tings.
onto Benji. Typhoon is out. Crush on the crab, but Benji has gotten the kill. An important I'm a Monster answers back here, gives a kill to the Camelot Kings, and that needed to happen because Benji starting to widen the gap even more. 3 levels up, 6.5 minutes in.
And this
yeah, not good to say the least here, Myth. Still a chance for Captain Twig. Maybe to put some pressure on mid, on left. Decent rotation in. Maybe Cyclone Spin receives some pressure here, but that's Charybdis. It's so hard to gank. But you got enough damage, and there's a Dark Portal that'll avoid a lot of that disengage. Cyclone Spin used the beads, not enough. And the Camelot Kings jungler able to help out the left side.
That's exactly what you need from the Camelot Kings. You are no longer allowed to play in the short lane, so you have to play everywhere else, and finding a pick on a Cyclone Spin opens up the door for the Gold Fury. Aurora's pretty far away.
Oh, and this is fantastic, because look, as of right now, look at the gold. It's barely ahead for the Tartarus Titans. It's going to get worse as the Camelot Kings pick up the Gold Fury for themselves, but Variety is here. He has his ultimate, but he doesn't have much mana. Benji still over in the solo lane. You might as well consider Variety out of this fight. He uses the last bit of mana. Only has his Acorn upgraded, whereas it's Blackthorn.
Burn now, thanks to crit going towards Netroid in that last slot with the Wind Demon, as well as better confirm, thanks to I'm a Monster from Big Man Tings, do have an advantage around this gold tree, as long as Benji isn't there. And Benji's here.
Yeah, Benji is here. He's a good enough player to be where he needs to be. Genetics, I'm sorry, my friend. You're going to have a hard time living through this one, and Paul is the one who nails in the final nail. Variety around to the right, but not much this Ratatosker can do. Benji is here, and that means dying is happening. And it's Genetics this time, despite the beads and the River's Rebuke, who will fall down.
So what do the Tartarus Titans do? They still have Benji at half HP, but his ultimate still available means that he might as well have 150% HP. Variety dashing in.
I mean, Captain Twigs in mid, Big Man Tings is hovering around here as well. There's no real chance for the Oni Fury or for the Oni Fury to be stolen away by the Camelot Kings. Maybe Captain Twig can get some damage and kill off this Pyromancer, but the Titans are making their way to the right side of the map quickly. You're going to get the objective. Can you get out? The answer is yes, so at least a trade back from the Camelot Kings. Not a 3-level lead is what the point of this one is. And so Variety now maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable in his ability to impact some of these fights. You don't want to lose Genetics, though. The beads are still down. That's an easy Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and should be an easy kill here for the Tartarus Titans. The last bit of damage is done, and it is Layers who deals the final bit of damage. I'm a monster onto Paul. But Paul uses the beads, uses the Aegis. That'll keep him alive in this fight. Soul Gem is there as well. The jump in from Benji, and the Nikes re-engaged.
Layers and Paul sticking around at low HP. Netroid forced to take the defensive routing towards his tier 1 tower. The Tartarus Titans are hurt, but not out of the fight. They want this permanent objective.
They do, and the tier 1 tower should fall down. The Tartarus Titans will pick this one up for themselves, as well as another kill on the Genetics. This Yamoja now has been bullied in the last couple of engagements. Netroid dashes away. Yeah, half the kills for the Titans. Far onto Genetics. Variety low, but watch out for Captain Twig, who's around the backside of this fight, but that's maybe not where he wants to be. The last charge will dash him on out, and Layers just doesn't have the damage or the mana to jump back in, and so Twig will live on.
Twig does cost himself the beads, though, and for little reason. There was no CC coming his way. Can't know that Layers doesn't have enough mana to use the Vampiric Bat, so understood that Captain Twig does just feel right in using that Relics, but he might have enough gold in hand, nearly, but 500 more. Yeah. Then he's going to have that same level of sustain, but that's a long ways off when the margins are this thin. In a game like this, it's the Tartarus Titans on the fire.
Yeah, look at this positioning from the Tartarus Titans. The Camelot Kings have to find an answer. The answer is not in the grave of Big Man Tings, but look at Book of the Dead buying a lot of time for this Scylla. Variety makes it up onto the branch. Big Man Tings up and over the wall.
Massive.
I'm a monster. Gobbles up a roar alongside Captain Twig. And for the first time in God knows how long, feels like the Camelot Kings find a winning fight.
Genetics still low HP, Variety low as well. That was an expensive engagement for the Kings. No ultimates available, but they do maintain the majority of their beads throughout that engagement. The Tartarus Titans, and specifically Aurora, stepping a little bit too far forward into the damage output of the Order team. They are resustaining with this Yamoja, but they're still playing at such a massive deficit. I'm not sure the Kings can do much with the next 15 seconds.
Agreed, but you see the value of this Book of the Dead build where Big Man Tings uses both of the actives, and there's still a chance that he goes down to the dive. That health shield was just massive, and the Camelot Kings, they've got a one-man advantage here, and they're feeling like that's enough. Despite all of the power that's still on the map, Variety brings himself back to a state of relevance here in this game, and now the tanky Ratatosker finds its way onto the front line. But the answer is quick enough from the Tartarus Titans, and the Secure is down long enough for the Camelot Kings.
The Riptide as well, but there are no easy picks on the Tartarus Titans. Benji's got 2 HP bars. Layers with Mantle of Discord and Bat Out of Hell is incredibly survivable. Paul playing so far away, even Aurora with a double leap. The Whirlpool stance from Cyclone could be tough.
This is a pull from the Tartarus Titans on the Fire Giant. Camelot Kings close by. Remember, that steal potential is there. The Fire Giant is low. Big Man Tings back around the FG pit. But this is delayed out. I'm a Monster's going to have to get used here. Is there enough damage for BFT to take it away?
Wow.
The Camelot Kings get the FG. Up on the branch, so is Variety, who dunks down, finds 2. The Riptide out from Genetics. Big Man Tings left alone on the right side of the fight. It is Typhoon from Captain Twig that deals the last bit of damage. You will trade your Hunter. You will trade your mid laner, but the Camelot Kings take the objective.
Big Man Tings buys his team a little bit of time, and he also nets Fire Giant for the 3 remaining members.
Damage, I mean,
Variety,
what's the cost?
Twig, Genetics. I'm not sure that that's enough kills for the Camelot Kings, or Tartarus Titans rather, to look for the ends if Captain Twig's ultimate comes back up in time. With the minion waves stacked up, though, the Tartarus Titans, they might just barrel through.
Yeah, this is the Tartarus Titans sieging down the right side Phoenix. Captain Twig, a quarter of the way back to his ultimate. Genetics nearly locked in place at the pull in. You cannot die here if you're Captain Twig. This is a winner-take-all best-of-5. The Tartarus Titans get the right side Phoenix, and the Camelot Kings will get one more chance to respawn.
Metroid 5 seconds away. It's the Camelot Kings trying to stop some backs, maybe split up this engagement. Strong. They could group up and try and siege themselves.
This is Big Man Tings. I mean, it felt like I'm a Monster was about to time out. So he does the damage at the same time as Captain Twig does, and that burst. This is why, if you were concerned about the Titans coin flipping a Fire Giant, you are so in control of this game, and suddenly Twig and Big Man Tings are able to combine on their burst damage and steal the Fire Giant away. If nothing else, it has delayed what might have been the inevitable for the Tartarus Titans. The Kings now have the FG buff, but maybe more importantly, the Titans don't.
The Tartarus Titans putting pressure on the left side of the map does leave the Camelot Kings right side exposed. Waves pushed up. Fire mini wave going to stack up on the right side pretty soon here as well. The Kings don't have much time to play with.
Layers is on Captain Twig here. This is 1 versus 1. Make it a 1 versus 2 as Twig desperately trying to get away. Typhoon won't help you when Layers is in the bat out of hell. Variety left alone with all 5 members of the Tartarus Titans. Fire minion wave about to reach the Phoenix on right. This would be interesting if the Camelot Kings choose to stick around and defend. This is a Primal Fury.
Yeah, there is no reason for the Kings to stick around here. If anything, I expected the Kings to push the right-hand side, but they want this fight?
Now Big Man Tings being walked at up to the branch goes Variety. Is he going in for a steal? Are you trying to steal away this Primal Fury? One more jump is all he needs, but it's well reset by the Tartarus Titans, and Variety will jump away. But the Fire Minions all this time working into the Camelot King's base, and some damage will be lost on the Titan.
The Tartarus Titans starting to move their way forward, specifically Benji trying to stop some backs.
He did.
He gets
He
Big Man
stopped the
Tings.
back. You're going to lose a little bit of damage, Miff, here on your Titan.
You do. Left side also being sieged out by the Tartarus side. Just interesting decision-making from the Camelot Kings. With Fire Giant on 3, you'd think they just group up on right and try and take out some Tier 2 towers, then work their way across the map. Chaos once they look for the team fight, and just the team fight. This Fire Giant will not be dropped down to below 50% HP unless the Titans have already forced out every single one of the Kings.
You need your single instances of CC to connect perfectly for the Camelot Kings. There's only 3, I say only, but there's only 3 sets of beads up for the Tartarus Titans, and only a few of those targets that you want it to be on. Here we go, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel out from a Roar.
I'm a Monster.
That's an ultimate up and down from Variety. I'm a Monster finds no value, and this is now suddenly a marvelously easier pull for the Tartarus Titans. Benji drops the Thorns, drops the Sentinel of Zeus as well. All this time, the Fire Giant being melted away, and the Tartarus Titans grab Enhanced Fire Giant for themselves, and Miff, they're on the chase.
Benji, the first one, 4 layers, blinks in, force the Aegis.
They got the angle. Big Man Tings dashes on away. Layers in the bat out of hell. The reverse sweep, is it happening before our eyes? Genetics guns down by Layers. The rest of the Camelot Kings live on, and they have to defend their Titan.
Paul gonna rejoin his team on the right-hand side. Right side, Phoenix goes down. Camelot Kings, they need to get back to base. They can't just dilly-dally. They need to go on their feet. If you can't channel it back, you gotta walk.
You don't have Genetics, but you've got everyone else. You don't have your mid or right side Phoenix. And the Titans will take a moment to rotate on over to the left side of this map. That gives the Kings the opportunity to push out the right. But Miff, there is so much damage on the Titan. If the Titans make it there, you might have to make a play like this. Fight outside of your Titan room.
Left side, Phoenix falls. The Camelot Kings, this is the last of it. They need to put up a defense here. And where's Twig? He's just now getting back to base.
Variety dashes away, and into the Titan room go the Tartarus Titans. This floor is looking mighty clean right now, Mifflin. The reverse sweep is upon us, and the Tartarus Titans get it done, and they're your Phase 3 champions.
They looked nonplussed to me, Dave. Down 1 game, the Tartarus Titans walked out of the break room. They said, no problem. Down 2, still, these guys were confident in their ability to make the comeback, and they have done so here today. Impressive teamwork, great adaptations. Everything happens in the P's and B's.
Yeah,
Gotta give
pulled out of the bag.
And there's so many different things to highlight through this game, Ro. I mean, you get really good Nike plays in the last 2. There were a lot of moments where Camazotz was able to get in there and absolutely destroy Twig at the beginning of a fight, which opened things up. Of course, Paul and going down 2 games, then winning 3 in a row just seems to go hand in hand now. It feels like everything lined up.
That's right, yeah, and we saw it similar with their Dragon set as well. They find what the issue is in their losses. In Dragons, against Dragons, they lost to Zeus in the game 1, ban that away. Easy from there, I suppose. Ban the Humbats away, a 3-0 from there as well.
It was, again, without that back door, probably just going to be a 4-game set. I'm still going to throw that out as a great call from the Kings in order to pick that up. Of course, giving us another fantastic set of plays. Layers there on the Camelots, making sure that while his win rate might not have been great, I believe every single win that Camelots got this weekend was here for the Titans. There's the live replay of what it was like when they won. And I'm sure feeling really good.
Yeah, speaking of Camelots, I think that might have been a Camelots impression by Aurora as well at the end.
Was that what it was?
Maybe, that's my
We're
guess.
going to find out. I specifically asked Dave to ask about that so we can find out here. 1-0-4 for Paul, 1-1-6 there for Cyclone. It feels like everybody kind of gets their hands out there. And there were a couple of things. You know, we're highlighting a lot of what the Titans did right, but there were definitely moments where we were watching, specifically like where Scylla was, things like that for the Kings didn't quite click with what I think you, Ducky, and Ro, and Aggro wanted to see.
Yeah, I was hoping to see more combos during the mid game, but the Titans just ran it through solo after that first early kill.
And they kept it going that way. Hey, if you're going to be able to get 25,000 damage out of Benji, I'm going to play through solo as well. And Ro, this was, again, just a really good performance for them. And there were moments where, you know, both of you had leaned kind of towards the Kings going into this, looking at their late game potential.
Yeah.
Where did that slip through their hands in this game? Like, what was the final nail in the coffin?
It looks like, I said the words as well, like scraping the bottom of the barrel for Twig, and the Humbats was by far exactly what they needed to do in these needed to have to do what they wanted in these team fights. When we took that away, their ability in these team fights was lessened by a huge amount, right? I don't blame them for having, you know, maybe a smaller god pool or, you know, a bit of a god puddle in some situations because, you know, they haven't been here long and they're playing all new gods as well. But I respect the fact that they came here, took it all the way to 5 games in the finals after not having any time on LAN. So I think even though they lost, they shouldn't be too sad because they got all the LAN experience that they need as well.
At the max that they could, right? They played 15 games out of 15 possible games for them this weekend. The Kings unfortunately fall here. The Titans, on the other hand, are the Phase 2, now Phase 3 champions, back-to-back for the LANs. We've got them all standing by for an interview.
Oh yeah, I've got everyone here with me. You know, one Titan interview at a time is difficult enough, but I'll make my way through the entire team. I'll ask each of you a question. Aurora, I think the most pressing one for you is we saw the celebration after the Game 5 victory there, the flapping of the wings. Can you break down what that was?
So I tried to think of the stupidest celebration I could do within a second, and that's what came to my head.
Ro seemed to think it was.
And it was also a Camelot's. It was a Camelot's impression, but it was the dumbest thing I could think of at the moment.
But it was a cool moment, and I think you deserve the praise nonetheless. So I'm going to scoot behind you here, and we'll go to the Camelot's man himself. Layers, you get Camelot's a whole bunch in this set. Feels like you're the kill participation machine. Are you tired of playing Camelot's?
No.
Camelot's every game, and you're cool with it?
Yes. I'm cool with it because we do well with it,
obviously.
And we're back-to-back off it. I played Camelot's in the Phase 1 playoffs the first game, and we won. Played Camelot's, and we won Phase 2 playoffs with it, so.
That's right, Phase 3 champs.
Phase
World's around the corner. We're feeling good. Camelot's, everyone, take notes. All right, moving on over. Now, Paul, there was some discussion on Twitter, Twitch, all that sort of stuff in these types of sets. We talk about the Neilma passive that kicks in. Seems like you're constantly in these high-pressure 5-game sets. You turn things around. Do you think there might actually be a Paul passive that we're underestimating here? Is it Paul that really turns on when down in the best of 5s?
There's no hidden passive, man. It's just
oh yes, there is.
It's just playing the work and just trying your best and a lot of practice.
I want an answer from you. Are you out of just out of contempt refusing to build Book of the Dead, or do you find more value in the big damage numbers?
No, I was testing a little bit in scrims, but it didn't feel that great because you're delaying your Soul Reaver and your pen. So it really wasn't feeling that great to me. Like getting the Reaver third on the Tiamat is really important. And so if you're going Book and then Book of the Dead and then it's not as good.
Well, Paul, you did big damage numbers all throughout this set. The build certainly thankful for it. I'm going to move on down Cyclone Spin. Played a variety of characters so far in the set. The Charybdis a little bit safer here in game 5. I'm saying game 3, game 5. What'd you have to do there in game 5? Felt like you just got to hang out, farm things up, and join the rest of your team as the game went on.
I just had to hit objectives again. I just had to live and sit there and watch my team kill them.
Charybdis sleeper really sneaky good, or what are we thinking?
She's kind of there. She's just really safe.
Right, good at staying alive, hitting objectives later on in the game. Cyclone's been a fantastic set from you. I'll move on over to Coach Oceans. Oceans, look, this is a longer set. A lot of adaptations needed to be had. Was this one of the more difficult sets to kind of theory craft around as far as picks and bans go?
I just think once the boys warmed up, they were just going to steamroll.
Sure.
And I'm really proud of them.
Oh, they did steamroll. And the man who maybe did the most steamrolling of all there in that last game, Benji, you get the Nike, you have like a 3-level lead the entire game. Did you feel like that was a matchup you were always going to be comfortable with, Nike into the Ratatosker?
Yeah. I mean, he counter-picked me, but, solo Grand Canyon, so.
Solo Grand Canyon from Benji, and I think that's the right way to finish this one off. Phase 3 champions, top seed going into the Smite World Championship. Congrats to the Tartarus Titans. I'll go back to the desk to round out the day.
Absolutely, congratulations
Congrats,
to the Tartarus Titans on their win. A great set of Smite that we just got to watch there. Ducky, Rowe, I know like both of you enjoyed it. Ducky, there was some joke, like I could never tell, again, trying to read you, if you wanted it to be a fast day or if you wanted it to be a long day, but I'm sure you have to be happy after this.
Yeah, no, it was a great set of Smite. I was trolling.
You were
Yeah, I was just a little hungry, but I was trolling. It was a really good set of Smite.
It can't be helpful when aggro comes in with delicious smelling food as well and sits in the green room when you're hungry.
Yeah, that was rough. I was struggling at that point.
Yeah. It has helped settle what Roe's going to get for dinner. I know that much. We can go ahead and take a peek see at this bracket. If you missed this weekend, first off, at least go back and watch this set. But of course, you should watch all of the King sets, all going 5. All were phenomenal, and a lot of interesting games, fun games that have happened the last few days. They are the Phase 3 playoff champions. Now, I know what you're probably wondering. What does that mean? First off, it means that they got $40,000. That's a huge chunk of change that's going to go into their pocket. They also get to choose their opponents on the bracket for Worlds, so they get to know which quarterfinal plays directly into them while they're waiting around in the semifinal. That's something that them and the Kings earned, is that trip to the semifinal spots. And you're probably also wondering, well, what about all these other teams? We haven't seen the Warriors, the Valkyries this weekend. We know some SCC teams did something a few weeks ago, like a month ago. What are they doing? And what about the teams that lost here? Well, good news for you is that they will be playing in the SWC placement round that's going to be happening in December. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. If you follow us at Smite Pro on Twitter, then at some point over the next couple of weeks, that bracket is going to come out, and you're going to be able to see what exactly these teams are going to be up against. You're going to have the time, the date, and of course everything that you need to know for your viewing pleasure.